Okay, we're set to go. So 4, 3, 2, 1.
Thank you so much. I'm Estela Lopez. I would like to I apologize for not being in person. I appreciate for my staff that have come in person. As we usually do, Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now I'm going to ask Alice to take roll call.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Lopez?
Here.
Karen Benham? Here. Bonnie Burke? Here. Eric Clemens?
Present.
Karen DeVos Walton? Karen DeVos?
Sorry, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Elwood Ashley?
Here.
Thank you. Jane Gates? Donald Harris?
I'm here.
Thank you. Martha Prue? Here. Oluga Riesco? Here. Malia Seavey? Here. Robert Tafar?
Here.
Thank you. That concludes the roll call, and we have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we move to public participation, let me remind you that not being present makes it more difficult when you want to ask questions, especially when we have items for discussion that I'm sure will get you. So I'm seeking your help in sort of not saying I'm putting my head remotely and saying so we can ensure that everybody participates in a discussion of the important agenda. So thank you. Calling participation, we have 5 people that sign up. Promote stop the other 4 are going to be speaking. So I'm going to call the first one, Mr. Brian Dolce, Karen from Milon.
I don't see
Can you hear?
Estella, can you hear me?
Yes.
I don't see video. My name is Brian. I'm the London Board of Education Secretary and a member of the High School and a proud parent of London Public Schools. In 2007, London Public Schools embarked on a long search for a new superintendent. At the time, I was fortunate enough as a parent to be part of the search and eventually selected as one of the 5 committee members to participate in the final interview. We were seeking a superintendent who would fearlessly lead a district no matter what may be thrown at them, make the hard decisions, by example, and always look forward. At the end of this arduous time, Cynthia Ritchie was selected. She was the right person at the time, and she has shown that she is the right person today. She's developed a new culture in London public schools, a culture of accountability, where we are united in excellence. As I'm sure you are aware, this phrase was created throughout our commission. But I would like to reiterate, this means to be united in united systems, investment in high level, and the shared understanding that all will rise, high expectations for each other, striving for excellence. To truly be united in excellence and implement any commissioner's network, and at its core, the district needs strong leadership on all levels. It is not about one school on an island, but rather a district working together. We are fortunate to have Chris Van at our middle school, and various leaders at our elementary with the needs of our students. We are seamless in building a school system and other districts in North Minor. With this leadership, the continued support of the Department of Education, and entry into the commissioner's network, London will be providing the support and our students require their academic journey. We are not in this alone. We are partners. Together, we will actively promote as they grow. I ask this committee to have London Public Schools, our leaders, our plan, and to get London Public Schools into the commission. Our district is united in excellence, but I ask you. I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. I'm having trouble. So I don't know regarding that. I would rather that so we can listen better of these speakers. I cannot hear you.
Hold on, we have her trying something different. Give me 1 second.
This way.
Marcella, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, let's not use the earbuds. We can hear you clearly.
Okay. It will bother my. That's where I am tremendously. Estuve con support of the Board of Education meeting. Anyway, thank you so much. Person in public participation. Isaac Gottesman, Vice President of ABCT Connecticut.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear when you called on. Who's the name that's supposed to be speaking right now?
There's an echo. I can't hear anything.
Michelle, do you know that Isaac Goldstein? I think that's the person to testify.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. There's an echo. I want to make. Good morning, everyone. For the opportunity to provide comment on Board of Education at your main board meeting. My name is Isaac Washington. I'm the current vice president of the American College of Education, ACE, Connecticut. I'm also the chair of the University of St. Joseph, Connecticut, Association of Public and Private Colleges and Universities to provide educator preparation interested in the education profession. Promote and strongly support schools and are advocates for robust education. On behalf of the ACT Connecticut Board of Education, I thank Commissioner Education, especially for those individuals who many of us work with on a regular basis. In my comments today, I want to have all of us working in educative preparation in Connecticut, the teachers, administrators, and staff at school going during this pandemic, whether virtually online, in person. As the board knows, it's a challenging complex system in best times. In COVID times, the efforts to provide educational opportunities for all children have been heroic. From the work of custodial staff and assistants to paraprofessionals and classroom teachers, building the district, the work has been truly extraordinary. All have given more personally and intellectually than anyone could ever ask. For those of us in educator preparation, everyone is inspiring. As we plan for the 2021 school year and a post-pandemic year, I think we are all thinking about how as a historian, I know that schooling has never been static. There has always been change. The questions before us are thus about and if those changes will continue to be driven by a common school idea, one that seeks to make public education rich and rigorous, caring and relevant for all students, including, if not especially, for those who have historically been the as teacher educators in Connecticut are asking ourselves about the challenges for a moment, for our own work. As we move forward, we are continuing to the Department of Education and a range of other educational stakeholders, from professional associations to community, remain central to continuous in a manner that truly responds to the challenges of our time. We look forward to continuing conversations as we work together. Families, the state of Connecticut. Please continue to feel free to reach out to our association on issues of mutual interest. And thank you again for the opportunity to address you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Gordon. The next speaker is Sarah Marshall from New London.
Good morning. My name is Sarah Marshall. I'm a parent and family and also in London. And so when New London joined, there wasn't a doubt in my mind part of the solution within the community. As a community activist, also as a parent, I have two children who attend London public schools. And if I didn't trust the leadership that was brought in a little over a year ago, part of this district, being under the leadership of Janet and Ross, most recently, has shown me that the visions are now with what Benny Dover has, what is in store for Benny Dover, the vision that Chris has with rebuilding the community and building trust again is something that we could all get behind and strive for. And as a parent and someone who's lived in London County, and I also attended Benny Dover, I do appreciate the tools that are brought in, and I appreciate the vision. I'm very part of this team and to strive for what we all want to see. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. And the last speaker today is Robert Haxey, a teacher from Woodbury High School in Woodbury.
Hello? Okay. I had trouble hearing. I just wanted to make sure it was my turn to speak. There was some feedback. My apologies. My name is Robert Haxey. I'm a 27-year teacher at Wilby High School in Waterbury. And my current position here is I've been the department chair of history for the last 18 years. And for the last 3 decennial accreditations, I've been the chair of EASC at Wilby High School. And I have to say that having served in that role for so long, Wilby High School is really ready for turnarounds as it comes up. And it's ready for very important reasons. I could come up with more, but I'm going to keep it short because, of course, I understand your mind. First of all, having been here for almost 2 decades, I've seen ups and downs of Wilby High School. I mean, Wilby High School at its best and at its worst. And right now, Wilby is in a position to surge forward. We have one of the best young faculty that I've seen at this school in a very, very long time. It makes me feel very optimistic about the future of the school, and it makes me feel optimistic about turning over leadership to that in a few short years. But they're in a very important. This is a group of young teachers. When I say a group, I mean a significant percentage of Wilby faculty currently are teachers within the first 3 to 5 years of their career, and they have a culture of wanting to be better. They have a culture of wanting to implement change, and they have a culture of watching each other teach, become better teachers. This is going to be an essential element of a turnaround, since professional development and implementing Tier 1 practices and best practices is going to be so critical, and getting teachers in the school on the same page is going to be so critical. And of course, you all know that without the proper culture of employees, that is not an easy thing to do. We absolutely have that now. And the other thing that we have, and this is something Wilby hasn't had in a while. Wilby right now has a leadership in place, not only at the school level, but at the superintendent level and at the central office level, who are not only committed to change and turning schools around, but in my humble opinion, as a teacher, as a longtime teacher, they're committed to doing it in a way which is right. And they're committed to doing it in a way which is going to have long-term positive consequences for this school, but most importantly, for the students who go to this school, and for the students who are old enough to go to this school. Because what I see is a cultural change happening at the school and about to happen at the school, which is going to redound back to students that are in middle school right now or in elementary school right now, who will someday be coming to Wilby High School in the future. Thank you very much for letting me support Wilby High School's turnaround application, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. The echo is much better. I only heard, one person speaking at a time. So, Commissioner, if you think we can proceed, then we don't need to make a recess to fix it. Let me know what you think, if you can hear me better also, and then we'll make a decision. Woody says Eric and Karen, better? Okay. How about it? Can you hear me? Can you hear me yell? Can you hear me speak?
Yeah, better here.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. We appreciate fixing the, and my apologies to the poly participation speakers who we had trouble listening thoroughly in the very important words. I think the commissioner has a wonderful surprise for us at this time, and it's sort of part of public participation, and I'm going to let her introduce this special group of people that will be talking to us today. So Commissioner, please go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lopez, and good morning to all our state board members and those in our listening audience. It is my pleasure to introduce you to a few students today. We know how important student voice is for you. Due to the pandemic, our student members were not able to be engaged and appointed to the board as you always have had them around the table with you. However, we recognize that the importance of student voice and wanted to hear from the finalists who we would have been selected from to have them join the board. So we're really thrilled this morning that we have 3 of the 5 finalists joining our meeting. Samantha, Rashid, and Keshav will be joining us today. We asked them to reflect on 2 things. We wanted to share with you what their plans are after their graduation, and also to share with us what are their recommendations and what would they like to share with us based on their experience learning during the pandemic as we all prepare for back to school in the fall. So one by one, I will actually, Samantha will go first. Samantha is a resident of Meriden. She goes to Class High, and she's got a nice, impressive resume so far. Advanced placement, UConn Early College Experience classes, a distinguished honor roll student, senator for Student Senate, secretary of the Connecticut Climate Action, a delegate to the Youth and Government through the present, Girls Varsity Senate, and she's volunteered over 125 hours of community service in Meriden. So Samantha, welcome, and asking you to speak to us today.
Thank you for having me today. It's great to see you all, even if it's not in person. So I am going to UConn for college in the fall, and I'm entering the Storrs campus for the PharmD program. So I'm going for my doctorate in pharmacy, which is a 6-year program, but with all of the UConn classes and the AP classes that we have in my school district, I'm hoping to cut down that program to 5 or even less than that. One of the questions that they asked us was what was a good suggestion that we had for students and teachers and school districts when getting ready for the next upcoming school year. And it definitely has been challenging this year, but I'm proud to say that this year, especially in Meriden, we've adapted a lot better than when the pandemic was thrown upon us last spring. And I think personally, one of the biggest things that I was impressed with this year was our communication. I know in years past, we've had other communication tools such as, phone calls and Remind and different sorts of applications. But I think over the pandemic, just the communication between at least students and teachers has improved greatly. For example, I can text any one of my teachers at any time and ask them any question, whether it's as simple as an assignment or anything greater. And I think that helps not only with making sure that your curriculum and your coursework is great, but also for that social emotional connection. And that was very happy for me to see that this year. I think definitely just the structure of online learning this year has been tricky for some students. For kids going to college, it kind of mimicked that college life, which I think is great. It's a great way to prepare, but there were also a lot of students who don't have the resources either at home or they have difficulty working independently. And I think that's why some of our teachers and our school districts have provided more support for them. For example, we have office hours at school, and we also have more one-on-one support than we did in years past with a variety of things from schoolwork to seeing mental health resources and also just other tools in getting prepared for college or the workforce or anything like that. Did anybody have any questions regarding Anything?
Any questions from board members, Ms. Samantha?
Samantha, I think what I would like to see, if the commissioner is okay, have these 3 students offer their opinion, then we can go back and ask questions. I do have questions, but I want to make sure that we have time for the other 2 and we can ask questions of the 3 of them later on. Thank you. Thank you so much for those sharing your experience and what you have learned.
Thank you. And so, Samantha, because we may come back with questions. Rashad King, resident of Windsor and from the Connecticut River Academy. Also impressive student leader in advisory program to promote inclusivity and community in homeroom and school. Member of the Black Student Union, Connecticut Youth Forum, World Affairs Council, and a Music Honor Society student. And also Global Empowerment Leadership Academy. We're just after school tutoring with grades 3 to 5. Welcome, Rashad.
Hi, thank you all for having me. I will say I'm a little nervous, so please bear with me. I haven't done this before in a while. I guess I should start by saying my name's Rashad King. I'm resident, like you said, Windsor, Connecticut. I attend Connecticut River Academy. My goals for graduation as of now, I'm a graduated senior league. All my credits are done. I just haven't walked across the stage yet. But I will say that this year has put a lot of goals in perspective for seniors in my school, and I expect around Connecticut. My goal specifically, I was accepted to Bates College in Maine not too long ago, and I'm hoping to attend there in the fall. I will be going for a political science major, and hopefully from there go into political analyst or political consulting, in which case I would be kind of in the thick of it in Washington, D.C. or in New York, wherever they have me. I've always been a great mediator and debater, and I find that these would suit me really well. But as I previously said, a lot of these goals came into focus because of the pandemic and everything that happened within this year. Just to reflect really quickly, as Samantha said, and as well as you all probably know, this pandemic has changed the scene for schools and administrative offices all over the state and all over the nation. It has caused a lot of students to really reflect on where they're going and what they're doing, and to really evaluate their school experience, especially high school like myself. But I think the only recommendation I would ask of the board is that students are very intuitive when it comes to things happening in this world. I think often what fails many teachers to realize is that what happens in society does bleed into the schools soon, and these conversations are going to need to be had, whether it be about politics, social issues, what have you. And I think during my school experience during the pandemic and during the events of January 6th and the Black Lives Matter movements happening all over the nation, there was a lack of conversation being had about some of these things in my school. And if the conversations were had, they weren't held in the right way. And I explained that by saying that both sides of the argument were not presented well enough in schools. And I think if schools are going to take it upon themselves to address these issues, I would suggest that there should be a way that a class or a forum should be put in place to allow schools to discuss this with both sides of the argument being met and discussed. Now, I don't know if that is within the board's power or reach, but I do hope that in any way a suggestion could be made to schools that these conversations have had, because either students go home with the wrong impression of what's happening and feel that they can't trust their teachers or the administrators, or the rest does fall upon the school to have to keep quiet, and that's not an easy task to do. But as of now, as I prepare for my time to go to school and go to college, I am hopeful with the events of past that schools and students can take it upon themselves to have these tough discussions in schools where they can feel comfortable to learn and really educate themselves with different peer opinions. Thank you all.
Thank you. Very well said.
Thank you very much. And a third and final student today, Kishal Ramesh, South Windsor and South Windsor High School, also impressive. National Honor Society, Social Studies Honor Society, co-founder and CEO of the South Windsor High School Economics Club, state treasurer for the Connected Future Business Leaders of America, president of South Windsor High School Future Business Leaders of America Club, and more. Silver medalist for the Rising Pianist competition. Welcome, thank you.
Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes, you can.
All right. So my name is Kish Ramesh. I'm currently a graduating senior from South Windsor High School in South Windsor. Thank you all for having me today. This is an incredible opportunity to meet with you all. It was really disappointing that we weren't able to do this over the past year, but given the uncertainties of the pandemic, that's totally understandable. And it's just amazing to be here today. So just to start off, some of my goals after graduation, I'm very fortunate and lucky to be attending the dual degree Huntsman program in International Studies and Business at the University of Pennsylvania this upcoming fall in Philadelphia. And my goal is to complete a double major in economics and international relations with a potential minor in mathematics. And that's sort of where I'm going to be at this upcoming fall. My goal in college is to really get involved in terms of student government, Model United Nations, maybe intramural tennis, trying different things. And I guess one question we were asked was, what is one reflection recommendation we'd like to share with you all based on our experience with learning during the pandemic as we prepare back for school in the fall? So one thing I noticed this year was that, like Rashad and Samantha have said, there was a lot of communication between students and teachers. I think teachers did a fantastic, fabulous job this year, especially with the uncertainties in the pandemic, and I would like to just commend them on that. And I think that there was a lot of communication and students were generally more comfortable in their classes. But one recommendation I would make is that in past years, we've seen a lot of emphasis on things like standardized tests, which often work for a lot of people, but may not work for others. And I think this year with the pandemic, when it's difficult to take quizzes and tests online, we've seen a lot of emphasis on collaborative project-based learning, which I found was far more useful in terms of intellectual and academic growth than standardized tests. And I think a lot of my peers, especially at South Windsor High School, would agree with that. I think that this sort of collaborative project-based learning is a really necessary step for providing a platform for students to demonstrate their knowledge and skills. And I think there really needs to be more of an emphasis on this in contrast to tests that seek to measure students' potential, but may not necessarily always contribute to improving and developing that potential. One example of this is in my high school, I currently take physics and my brother takes chemistry. And what we've noticed is that in past years with our science classes, we would take a lot of tests and we'd be practicing for AP exams, subject tests, so on and so forth. But now, what we're doing in our classes is we're learning how to conduct lab experiments virtually. So sometimes we'll have a partner in school and we'll be at home and we're working on our lab experiments and we're learning how to apply that physics and chemistry more than just memorizing formulas and, the periodic table and so on. So I think that transition from standardized testing to like a project-based learning environment is really key and is something that I would recommend the Board of Education really look into in terms of the department too. Thank you guys so much for having me today. It's really been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Commissioner, thank you for bringing the students' voices, and I'm sure the members of the board have questions. Again, since it's difficult for me to see you, if you could just jump in and say, Stella, I want to ask a question, and go ahead, because what they have said is very significant and helpful, I think, and we have missed their voices in our meetings. So go ahead.
So Stella, this is Malia.
Okay, go ahead, Malia.
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to echo your comments about how valuable their voice is and how much I appreciate hearing them today, and how sad that I am that due to the pandemic that you're not fortunate enough to have their voice with us over this past year. clearly another group of exceptional human beings that I wish all the best to in the future, and look forward to getting the students back on our board here in the near future.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, this is Karen Du Bois Walton. Thank you to the 3 students. Also, I add my appreciation for being able to hear. I also wanted to lift up, I appreciate your sharing the opportunities that existed during this pandemic to think a little differently about how we do our work. And I think they be paying attention to that carry forward. So hearing that from students, particularly around standardized assessment and other ways in which student growth was looked at and measured, I think was really important. So thank you for that. And I also want to commend the student who spoke to the need to prepare our educators to have the kind of real world conversations that need to be held in the classroom, as you use the example of Black Lives Matter. So thank you, and I wish the 3 of you much success, and hope to hear from you as you move forward.
Thank you, Karen. Anyone else?
Yeah, Estella, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I
will always recognize you, even if I don't see you. I will always recognize you.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to say good morning, and we always feel the student voices on this State Board of Education are so essential. You know, we need to commend them. And I do have a question for Rashad. What college or university are you attending?
Hi. Oh, I'm sorry. I probably forgot to mention it. Bates College in Maine.
Oh, College of Maine. Okay. Bates. Or Bates. I'm sorry.
It said that.
Okay. He's okay. So I missed it. But okay. So anyway, thank you so much. That's all I have to say. And congratulations. Nicely stated from the voices of our students. Yeah.
Thank you.
So Estella, this is Bonnie. I would just again want to echo everything that the others have said, and I think that the future of learning is in your hands, and I appreciate the fact that you're going to be there to help us identify how we can move forward in the best way to identify not only the social emotional learning, but the collaborative efforts that we need to go forward to really be successful. So thank you for presenting. Look forward to hearing more.
Thank you. Anyone else? Again, I want to thank the commissioner for bringing the 3 students, and what I really appreciated were a number of things. First, having their voices again in the Board of Education meeting, but that each one of them identified things that in spite of the challenges of the pandemic are working. When Samantha said she can now text her teachers all the time, I almost died. I said, oh my gosh, that's incredibly a way of communicating, and also the fact that teachers, our heroes, are willing to go that way and accept that way of communicating is great. Again, the notion of collaborative learning and problem-based learning, very, very helpful. And Rashad talking about his political science desire, and that he's a great mediator, and I'm sure they need to have conversations about what's happening in the school. So to the 3 of them, congratulations on being accepted to great universities. We know you're going to do very well, and what we do hope is that you come back to Connecticut and help Connecticut become a better place for students, all students like you, and all the students that are in our classroom. So thank you so much, Commissioner. Thank you so much, Samantha, Rashad, and Kesha, for coming today and helping us to remember and be very much aware of the importance of student voices in our board meeting.
And Vice Chair Lopez, finally will say, we did get governor's proclamation for all of them, so they will be receiving that in the mail, recognizing and appreciating all their efforts. So thank you all, and watch your mail.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Bravo. Bravo. This is the way to solve the echo, to have student voices. Anyway, thank you again. We have no executive session, so the next item in the agenda is the consideration of the minutes of the April 7 meeting. So I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
And a second. Okay. So any questions regarding the minutes? Any issues before I ask for a vote? Any? Okay, all those in favor say yes.
Aye.
Aye. And any opposition? Any abstentions? Thank you. And then report of the commissioner. She has not been busy. She's been super busy.
Thank you all very much. You have this in your supplemental packet, the list of all the things that's been occurring. I just want to highlight a few things for you. If you notice on the legislative and governor office meetings, that there's been meetings with the governor's office on the American Recovery Plan Act. And if you've been watching the press conferences that's been occurring on the 26th, there was the release of the proposal for federal COVID-19 funding from the American Rescue Plan Act that the governor shared with the legislature. And in that particular report that connected to education was where we talked about the summer enrichment programming that you'll learn a little bit more about later today that is occurring. So that impacts education and really a great cross-agency collaboration around all of these efforts. That the particular plan also addressed the Office of Workforce Strategy and areas where there's overlap, looking at job training and support, career pathways, so that certainly reach back into our schools, and looking at teaching and learning in some aspects, and dual credits being offered, and the need for state agencies and education institutions to work together. And so I'll have to send out a couple of infographics that were developed so that you can have those. So really to have been a part of all those conversations and also the work going forward. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. Internally, we convened our State Department staff in a virtual environment. As you can know, a little challenging, but really great feedback that we were able to get all the staff together, including the Technical High School Central Office staff, and just being able to update everyone at the same time in terms of all the activities, and certainly to appreciate the work that everyone's been doing, even though we're not in the same space together. And that went over very well with really great feedback from staff. So they really enjoyed just coming together and meet new people, because we've actually onboarded new staff during this time that they've not gotten a chance to meet. So really thrilled to share that with you. Under external operations, you notice we've met with the CAP Board of Directors and some of our superintendent regional groups. And so making sure that we're continuing to hear from and listen to our superintendents to unearth whatever concerns that may be arising so that we can be problem solving together. So that continues. The issue of mentoring during this time, which we know is so critical, even virtual mentoring, I was able to participate with the Governor's Prevention Partnership and the Governor and Commissioner Delson Rickman to talk about and appreciate mentors who are working now more than ever to make sure that they're supporting our students. Under statewide meetings, you notice that there's been several press conferences that I was able to join the governor in releasing information about our learner engagement program. You'll learn a little bit more about that later. Summer enrichment, the ARPA press conference that I mentioned before. Also the Lieutenant Governor on the Computing Challenge press conference that occurred. And just this past week, the Cultural Attraction press conference, where our students will be able to take advantage of our museums and cultural centers without cost being a barrier. And so really thrilled to be a part of all of that effort. You will hear a little bit later about our all hands on deck effort in the agency to prepare our American Rescue Plan ESSER funding, that we have a plan that has to go to the federal government on June 7th. And we certainly, you'll be hearing more from us as we engage you as well as the board in providing input into the plan that we will be preparing. So as Vice Chair represented, it truly is 24/7 all hands on deck. And finally, also helping to support and work with our partner agencies as we know that our students, 16 and 17-year-olds are eligible for the vaccine, and as of today, 45% of them have gotten their first vaccine. And so really working again cross-agency to provide those efforts. So again, the full report is there, but I just wanted to lift up and highlight a few things for you. And thank you, and we'll answer any questions, but more to come under agency update as well.
Thank you. Any questions for Commissioner Russell Tucker?
Yes, hi, it's Mia Wills, Stella.
Go ahead.
Yes, in terms of your participation in summer programming meetings, what were the highlights of those meetings? We just want to know what's going to be the latest this summer.
Sure. So thank you, Willis. So I'm asking about the summer programming, and on our board updates, we have a couple of slides just to talk more about it, but really it's about the summer learning and summer enrichment activities that we plan. We have an application that's out right now for folks to apply for expanding summer programs or for new innovations. And Chris Soto will be joining us a little bit later to give us all the highlights. Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you, Charmaine.
Any other questions for Commissioner Russell Tucker? Any other questions? I really appreciate, Commissioner, the fact that you are trying to keep us updated. There's so much going on that I feel like we're all drinking from a fire hydrant with the information, and people ask us very specifically. And by the time we try to get the answer, there's something new going on. In addition to the funding, the summer learning, the things that the district are doing. So it's challenging to keep up to date, but I know you're trying your best to ensure that we have the knowledge and the information that we require as board members, and in terms of looking at the policy. So thank you so much for that. I think it's very important that communication is it's kept at the at its best at this time. So we are now not surprised by what's going on. Anything else that we want to say before we move on to the next topic? Okay, thank you again. And then the next item is the items for requiring action. And we have three items. There are 2 plans from the New London school, the high school and the middle school. And then we have one from Wilby High School in Waterbury. So I would ask for a motion for each one individually. So the first motion would be for the approval of the Commissioner's Network Turnaround Plan for New London High School in New London. I will need a motion.
I'll move the item, Karen.
Second.
Thank you. So I understand that Irene Mauricio and Lisa Lamento will be introducing this item. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Morning. Thank you, Dr. Lopez, and thank you, Commissioner. I'm going to ask my colleague Lisa Lomenzo to give you a background as we move forward, but I want to commend Lisa Lomenzo as our division director and the turnaround team for all of the work that has been put forth to bring these 3 applications to you for your consideration. It's a tremendous amount of effort and a lot of partnership with the districts to get us to this point. So I just want to recognize Lisa Lomenzo and the team and her leadership. Lisa?
Thank you, Irene. Good morning, everyone. As Dr. Lopez shared, we have 3 schools coming before you today for consideration for the potential entrance in. The first 2 action items are we have New London High School and Benny Dover Jackson Middle School. While we will focus on each individual school separately, I did want the opportunity to share that while each plan before you is unique to each of the schools, you will also notice threads among them. This work is grounded in the district's strategic plan. In school improvement, we are always looking for this alignment and coherence. Is the work evident at the district level, at the school level, and then in the classroom? So do the systems, the structures, the programming, and people in place support this framework. So while you will see some commonality across both schools, you will also see specific needs of the schools addressed. So let's go ahead and move on to the individual schools, beginning with New London High School. With us here today, we have New London Superintendent Cynthia Ritchie, New London High School Principal Dr. Ortiz, and I'd also like to recognize the turnaround consultants instrumental to both planning, Michael Kent and Carol Dibble, along with the turnaround committees from the schools who are watching on the live stream. So I'm going to give a bit of a context and then turn it over to Superintendent Ritchie. On April 3rd, 2019, the department received a Commissioners Network expression of interest for New London High School. The selection of New London, an audit was on October 30th by the turnaround team. The results of that audit served as a foundation for the development of the application you have before you. I recently visited New London High School where Dr. Ortiz and his welcomed me and the turnaround team to their classroom. We saw with hundreds of college banners and boards with unity and even a hallway painted by students. Actually, one was right there when I was walking by. And it was really messages of encouragement and self-work. So that was great to see. We also had the pleasure of observing Chef Tom's culinary classroom, where students were having a cook-off competition on Alfredo. Being it was 9 o'clock in the morning, that was impressive. But we also saw the start of a hydroponic system and a science classroom where the teacher and students were trying to problem solve reviving a near-dead plant. So with all this said, the plan before you aims to build effective strategies and practices to improve student by implementing high-quality, culturally responsive instruction, numerous collaborative planning opportunities for all staff, a multi-tiered system of supports for students, an effective SRBI system to attendance, academics, behavior, and implement extended learning and academic support and enrichment opportunities to accelerate student success. So before inviting Principal Ortiz to speak to the plan, I would like to give Superintendent Ritchie an opportunity to say a few words.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much, Lisa, and thank you to the entire State Board of Education for this really unique opportunity, not to just highlight London Public Schools as a whole, but to bring forth 2 schools to you for consideration into Commissioner Network. I also want to give a shout out to all of the educational leaders who work for the Department of Education. They have been incredible partners for us, actually for many years. And I really value their trust, their transparency, and in our strong relationship serving students with all of the goals that we have set forth through our opportunity district plans and our alliance plans. So thank you for that. And one last thank you is to the New London Board of Education. We have an extremely effective Board of Education right now who is super supportive of our strategic plan, of all of our staff, and of our students. So I'm very grateful for the strength of relationships surrounding the work. When I started this university just a few years ago, I highlighted that it's time for New London to start their next chapter. And we are continuing to live up to that new vision to start anew. Since then, the Board of Education in New London has approved a brand new strategic plan that I put into place during the fall of 2018. And a new vision, and our vision is to be united in excellence, and that being united encompasses everybody, united across schools, united across staff, united across each other within the community, and united with partners, including partners at the State Department of Education. Our strategic plan has 4 distinct pillars: placing academics, climate and culture, operations, recruitment, retention, and success of staff, highlighting them at the forefront. All of our work continues to be student-centered with specific goals, measurements, and accountability in place. When I saw the opportunity to become part of Commissioner Network, I was super excited during that springtime of March 2019, which was my first school year. And having 7 years experience serving opportunity districts, I was so excited because I know the value in this type of partnership and support system. So I did apply for both schools with the support of my board and my team, and of course our families. You'll note in the high school plan, there's strong alignment and coherence to our district plan. It is a strong plan. It's a multi-year plan, and it's important not just for the aims of the district, but also for the individual needs of high school. The ultimate goal of being every student is graduate ready for college and career. We're going to see a big highlight of our differentiated needs of students. We have our multilingual and male population, and we also have differentiated tiered practices in place for students who have special needs. The plan promotes collaboration, shared leadership, opportunities for leadership of student business, and for adult learning. And having a plan on paper is one thing, but we are keenly aware of how important it is to be able to implement, evaluate, and sustain the plan in the long term. And that is what we are ready to do. It takes a really special leader to be able to lead this work. And I want to highlight Dr. Jose Ortiz as that special leader. Dr. Ortiz is an incredible leader who is child-focused, who has vast amounts of classroom leading turnaround initiatives. Another attribute of Dr. Ortiz is that he has already had experience in New London, serving as a principal in elementary school, middle school, and now at the high school. So he has an incredible handle on the students and he is serving and the families and community that he is serving. He knows and understands connections between standards, between grade levels, and of course knows the students and families that he serves. I also want to highlight how collaborative he is, and I truly see a strong link between central office, between building administrators, between staff, and then the community. I also want to give a shout out to Dr. Hills, who is our director of instruction and assessment. Her name may sound familiar to you. She was highlighted by this week for her turnaround week work at Pippin Elementary School just a few years ago. So she is an integral part of working simultaneously with both the high school and the middle school, and is part of our network team, helping to co-lead all of the instructional initiatives. So I'm so proud and so excited about the plan in front of me. I'm very thankful for so many staff at the high school who have risen to continue to support this work. And it is clear that Dr. Ortiz is not just a leader, but he's a leader who people will follow. Again, focused on the transparency and ultimate commitment to children is what drives this work. And I totally endorse him, the New London High School, and the entire leadership team for consideration for joining Commissioner Network. We are committed and really look forward to the future for New London. I will turn it over to you, and I thank the board for hearing my words today. Dr. Ortiz.
Yes.
If you're remote, we're gonna, one second, Dr. Ortiz. For the folks who are remote, the board members, we're gonna mute you. Please unmute yourself when you have a question or a comment, but for now, we need to mute the folks who are remote.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, now, your turn, Dr. Ortiz.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, so good morning. Thank you, Superintendent Ritchie. This is a very exciting morning for me and for everyone at the London High School. Good morning, Commissioner. Good morning, board members. My name is Jose Ortiz, and I am the very, very proud principal of the London High School. Just to tell you a little bit about me, and I think Superintendent Ritchie talked about a little bit about me, and I appreciate it. I have been an urban educator in the state of Connecticut, only in urban centers for 23 years. I started as a bilingual and ESL teacher. I was at the elementary and high school levels. I have been the principal of elementary, middle, and high school, which is just really amazing to see that progression of how it's really go from pre-K to crossing the stage of high school, which is really exciting. I have been the chief academic officer for Scholastic International, doing some turnaround work in the States and outside a couple of places in the world, and an assistant superintendent of secondary school turnaround in the state of Massachusetts. Although I come into Commissioners Network with some years of turnaround experience, I am looking forward to putting myself in the role of the learner. I believe that Commissioners Network will allow me to experience both being a leader and a learner, which are two of my favorite roles in education. This has been a very challenging year for all of us due to COVID. New London High School has been currently operating in a hybrid model for in-person and virtual learning. Currently, 70% of the students are currently attending New London High School in person, and 30% are attending in full distance learning. Going back a little to the state's initial audit, New London High School was not in a great place. There were several areas that we were in need of improvement, significant need of improvement. And that was in instructional practice, in recruiting and retaining staff, in academic rigor, in differentiation of learning, attendance, behavior, and interpersonal interactions. So those were just some of the areas that we were really struggling at the point of the audit. But you know, the amazing thing is that we are now, through the Commissioners Network process of drafting the plan, we were able to address these areas of concern. It was a very collaborative process. It really, the product that is in front of you, the actual plan, took hours and hard work and involved many stakeholders and students. I cannot tell you about how much we ensured that students were part of the drafting of the plan. They needed at the high school level, absolutely, they need to be at the right center of the drafting and back to the plan. Teachers, administrative parents, Principal Bob McKitties over at Brady Dover Jackson. He was my sounding board, and just like such a great colleague, so much. They were district officers, the superintendent, and directors of curriculum who always really supported us. I want to say that the turnaround team at the state, Lisa Lamenzo, Mike Kent, Jen Webb, Carol Dibble, you're all family to us. We would have not been able to really put a strong, coherent plan in front of the board today if it wouldn't be because of you. The process to develop the plan was too collaborative. It was provided by the Commissioners Network Committee. We met every 2 weeks. And then there were subcommittees who met even more frequently to really develop the sections of the plan. I have to say that while working on the CM plan in London High School, we didn't just stay put. We were just really working, and I think that we made progress in some areas this year despite the challenges of COVID. This is the reason why in some of the parts of the plan we wrote, you're gonna see the word continue, and that was just like to specify the work that not starting with Commissioners Network. but that is continuing if we are given the opportunity to be part of the network. By just really going, we feel like we had just started to make progress with Commissioners Network funding and support. We truly believe that we are going to just make it to the next level and meet our turnaround goals. Some of the work completed this year was recruitment of racially diverse, high-quality staff. 92.2% of our kids are students who are Black and brown, so we wanted to just get more staff who just look like them. The revision and the development of curriculum, considerations for new curriculum options for math and ELA was also ongoing. We implemented this year an ESL curriculum called School Connect. As we all know, it was just a heavy emphasis of SEL supports for kids and teachers this year. And we also hired an SRBI coach this year. Our plan is built on the belief that every student that graduates needs to be ready for college and career. To this end, we believe that recruiting and hiring and retaining high quality and diverse talent is absolutely critical. We also believe that implementing a standard-based curriculum and a common definition of effective instruction is also very critical. We also believe in multi-tier of academic SEL and SEL support for students. And we also strongly believe in school systems and operations that are aligned to support teacher effectiveness. To this end, we go back to this Commission Network plan. It's divided into the 4 key levers or pillars: talent, academics, climate and culture, and operations. So our next step in turning our beliefs into action was to prioritize strategies under each one of these levers or key pillars of turnaround. So to start with talent, we prioritize to recruit and hire and retain racially and linguistically diverse staff. We also strategize to align all professional learning plan to just support students' needs. We also worked on implementing a new teacher orientation program to really support the area of talent. We found that we lost several teachers to that first year, and it was critical to just get them early, get them mentors, get them the support that they need. And I think that what we are going to just build is a new teacher orientation program that doesn't happen in 3 days, but that is totally ongoing throughout the year. The second pillar is academics, and that is just like we strategize 3 areas. And the first one is to continue to implement effective instruction that is multi-tier and academic supports to the implementation of the SRBI system. We also decided to implement curriculum that is culturally responsive. We have made some progress this year with this, but once hopefully we're able to just get the support of Commissioners Network, we're going to just get into deeper culturally responsive and auditing all of our curriculum to just ensure that this piece is there and strong. We're going to implement math and literacy curriculum that focuses on Tier 1. We have done a lot of great work with Tier 1 instruction, but again, with the help of Commissioners Network, we're going to go deeper into the implementation of supporting every kid at the Tier 1 level, that 80% of the kids that should be responding to Tier 1. That is really what we're looking at. And of course, we want this to be aligned to Common Core. In climate and culture, we are going to strategize this plan. The improvement of student attendance. This year, I must say in front of all of you that it has been a struggle. We really have struggled with attendance. So continuing to really work on Tier 1 strategies to support attendance, continue to work with Attendance Works, and develop a comprehensive multi-year plan to ensure that kids really are in school and they're learning. It's going to be of utmost priority. Strengthening family and community engagement. We have done a move this year, but we believe that with the plan and implementing the plan as written, we're going to be able to support family and strengthen community engagement. And again, continued PBIS, SRBI, SEL, You would be so very proud if you would come to Nolonlan High School and see student-led PBIS meetings. It's just those are happening right now, and we just really are so thrilled, and kids are so thrilled that they're part of the PBIS process. In the operations, we're gonna just, yes.
Dr. Ortiz, I'm so sorry to interrupt. Now and ask the board members if they have any questions that they would like to dive into a bit more.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that summary.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Principal Ortiz and Superintendent, for providing us an overview. I'm sure there are many questions, and I do have some of them, so I'll ask my fellow board members to begin with asking questions of both of you regarding the proposed plan. I don't see any hands on going on.
Yeah, Estelle, I had one. This is Bob.
Good. Go ahead, Bob.
Lisa, the observations that are referenced in the report by your staff, were they, how long ago were they? Were they before the change in leadership or after the change in leadership?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So the audit report was before the change in leadership, but we have been in 6. And being that this is their second planning year, a lot of work has been done in the second planning year to relook at those areas and also engage new stakeholders in the turnaround committee, as well as dive in deeper in the root causes.
I had another question for the superintendent. There are a number of positions that are being, and coaches and other people that are being added to try to address some of the problems that Dr. Ortiz mentioned. Is there a commitment on the part of the school district to continue those positions after they complete this process with the state?
Yes, there is. Instructional coaching is a major part of our district's organization plan. It's completely built in the elementary level all the way through the middle school level, and the high school is the last tier of it. So it has been sustained for a few years. We really value these positions as they work both with adults in help adult collaboration and adult learning and modeling in the classroom for instructional practices. But these positions are still teaching positions, so they also spend part of their day working directly with students for delivery of intervention and or differentiation. So yes, they're critical and long-term.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from any other board members?
Yes, Estella, I have a question. Lisa, this is probably for you under school information. The SAT percent meeting or exceeding, that's such a drastic decline over the 4 years listed there. Is there a change in the amount of students who also took that test? Are you seeing, like in 2015 and 16, was there fewer amount of students? Do you have that information? It just seems so drastic of the decline over the 4 years.
I do not sure online if he has a response to that. Or Dr. Ortiz, I think you have something that you'd like to add to that.
Yeah, there was just definitely there is a drastic change. I have to say that last year over the based on the accountability index, I know that the percentage of kids that took was also lower. That is something that I'm going to tell you. Even in the last administration, we are just hovering around 5%. So I feel like we went up this year, but definitely there was a decline, and that decline was drastic.
Erin, any other questions, Erin?
No, thank you, Estella.
Yeah. Superintendent Richard, do you wanted to say something? Go ahead.
Yes, I would like to add a little bit more about the drop in the data. So back in that school year 14-15, the school codes changed. So in the past, Science and Tech Magnet High School was combined with New London High School, and then that year they were separated to only show academic. So that definitely had an effect on the change.
Okay, thank you. And anyone else, any other questions for New London on the high school before I ask my question? So then I'll go ahead. I don't see any hands, anybody pulling my hair, so I'll ask my questions. I really struggled reading the plan and also the next school that we're going to be discussing, because the baseline is so low and not what should be, that my question really was my struggle was, is giving them resources going to really make a difference? I did have a conversation with Lisa, and she really praised the new leadership and the commitment that both the superintendent and the principal have. And also, I'm glad to see that you already began to do things, implement things to change both the most critical pieces, which are the rigor, the interaction with teachers, the professional development, and so on and so forth. What I really want to say is that these schools are very close to my heart because I am like one of your students. I went up to a school like that. So I want to see every child in those schools, every student have the same opportunity that I've had in my life and that have allowed me to become the professional that I was able to become. I want to see you succeed. And we are going to expect you to come back and show results next year. I cannot accept anymore years of performance not getting better, and us talking about how to do it and nothing changes and happens. So we do have great expectations for you, and we do want you to be accountable to the standards that we're setting for every student in Connecticut to ensure that they have the chances to graduate with the knowledge and skill set that they deserve. I do believe that both the superintendent and the principal are committed to this plan. And I know Lisa, and I'm going to ask Lisa the question instead of asking both of you, because you've gone through a lot of detail. I'm going to ask Lisa. I know she's been at the head of the turnaround office now for a number of years and learned many lessons. What is it that her office is doing differently in terms of ensuring the results that we're expecting? Lisa, how are you working with your great staff to ensure that we get the results that we expect at the state level and at the board level? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lopez. I believe the question was, what are we doing differently, correct? I'm having a little bit of feedback.
Yes, I'm sorry.
So thank you for that question. We're actually very intentional about evolving our system of supports and turnaround. And this year in particular, it was really hard to do so more than ever before. And actually, to answer this question, I'm going to lean over a second. And Dr. Ortiz, this might be familiar to you and any turnaround staff who is watching. We started this thought process this year in particular. It says start, stop, continue. We use it with ourselves, we use it with our school districts, and we really take a hard look at ourselves and say, what do we need to start, stop, continue, and change? And so I can give you a couple of examples. Let's start with Started. We host a 2-day Commissioners Network Leadership Institute to onboard new leadership teams on all things related to Commissioners Network out of the beginning there. So everything from change theory to listening to a panel of current and former Commissioners Network principals around all of those systems. We also, with the pandemic, created a virtual tool for district and schools to use to perform virtual observations. We were actually trained in the nation for this, and we're asked to present as to other seats. We've also started pop-up PDs. We heard loud and clear that the field wanted short, targeted, actionable PDs. So we created 30 minutes of on-demand PDs that the field shared was relevant. This was not only with our office, the turnaround office, other offices in the agency, as well as the principals and leaders in the field. Included self-care, connections, building trust, effective instructional strategies, and so forth. In terms of stopping, I know that you can't keep piling on without people and processes. So we took a hard look at our processes and systems and took stock of what we as an office could streamline without sacrificing the impacts. So as a result, we did cut down on some of the redundant reporting in the yearly budget and priorities. We shifted all of the grants to online grants management system for a one. That was a big win. And became hyper aware of the support that we were getting time and the time on virtual, because we've all faced fatigue. I'm going to continue because you asked about change. The last thing I want to mention is we've always been very intentional about feedback. And this year we started roundtables 3 times a year. First, to talk with us informally about what's going well, what continues to be a challenge, and what are the possible next steps. So this isn't only an opportunity to gain insight, which is very important for supports, but also a way to connect and network with other leaders from across the state in a year when those site visits that we all love were limited. So coming from a district myself, I speak from experience in saying hearing from your peers and colleagues is invaluable. So those are just some of the, I could go on and on, but I know we have a few more schools that we need to get to.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for, again, I want to ask my fellow board members if they have any questions before we move to a vote then, to vote on this.
Malia.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, again, not a question, but I appreciate your question of the district and of Lisa. So everybody knows that I'm from Southeastern Connecticut and have been from my entire life. So the expression of interest from New London High School and New London School District, I was very, 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 very pleased to see. Just as disturbed about the low baseline that you noted, Estella, and echo the expression of expectations for results as we move forward. And clearly the long-term inequities that have been from the New London Public High School for so long that have really, in some ways, influenced and motivated me in doing this work. So I do also hold those same expectations for results from the high school.
Thank you, Maria. Anyone else? So then we're ready for a vote. We have a motion and it's been seconded. So all those in favor of approving the Commissioners Network Turnaround Plan for New London High School, please raise your hand or say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Thank you so much. And again, Principal Ortiz and Superintendent, we are going to be seeing you. We're really going to be seeing you and asking you very difficult and tough questions because we do want results. For the children, we want results.
Thank you all so much. We look forward to working with you.
Right. Thank you. And as we move on to the second plan, Lisa, because we know you have expressed that the second school for Benny Dover Jackson Middle School, that they are connected to the strategic plan. And we heard a great deal about the plan and the superintendent's work. Maybe if they can sort of focus on what they have been doing in the second year of planning what have they been doing to address some of the issues that are being identified. I think that would be helpful. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. So I invite Principal Bambakides to join us from Benny Dover. Chris, are you on? Okay, go ahead and begin. So similar to the high school, the middle school is part of the district's strategic plan. The plan that you have before you focuses on utilizing strategies, methods, and best practices that have been proven to be effective in improving student academic performance. I was able to visit a couple of weeks ago with Principal Bambakides, where he greeted me outside the building. The first thing he wanted me to see was this blue house to the right of the school. And he shared that that was his home and just how much it meant to him to be serving as the principal of the middle school he attended as a student. It was evident in everything he shared that day and steps that he and his team have made over the past year to set a foundation for what's to come. So at this point, Superintendent Ritchie, I'm going to transition to Principal Bambakides. And Principal Bambakides, Dr. Lopez has requested that you touch upon some of those efforts that you have already started during the planning year and how it builds the foundation for the work moving forward.
Absolutely. So good morning. Thank you, Lisa, and thank you, Superintendent Ritchie, for the introduction. Good morning, everyone. And first off, I would like to thank the State Board of Education for this opportunity today to present our plan. Thank you, Lisa, Carol, and Mike Kent and the Turnaround Office for your support thus far and guidance. We sincerely appreciate it. And I also like to congratulate Dr. Ortiz and the high school team on their acceptance into the network. I know they've worked extremely hard over the last couple of years to get it to this point. So at first we were going to talk about our plan, but in the essence of saving time, we'll talk about the progress that we made so far over the course of this year. So although it is my first year as principal of Benny Dover, we have worked extremely hard to put certain things in place to help move us forward because with next year being hopefully year one of the Commissioners Network, we didn't want to wait until next year to get the ball rolling. We certainly wanted to put certain things in place to set us up for future success. So one of the things that we've done is we altered our schedule to meet the needs of our students. And what I mean by that is we created new courses, reading through history course, which is giving us the ability to meet the needs of students that need additional supports and interventions through reading lab and math lab. We've never had that opportunity before, and it's allowed us to create new classes and think outside the box to offer interventions and opportunities to students that have never had it before. This has also allowed us to think on the other end of the spectrum and offer students enrichment opportunities, and our schedule and scheduling has never allowed us to offer these opportunities before. We've also been working on the development of our curriculum, which we know has been a critical and key component of our plan. Our aim and our goal is to make sure that our curriculum is done at the start of our next school year. So that way, when we walk in on day one next year, our curriculum in our 4 core areas is complete and done and ready to go. And we know that with a curriculum that's going to give us a vision, is going to give our staff an opportunity to deliver high quality instruction, and which will increase our student outcomes. We've also started our work with David Cormier. The reason being is that we know that he's done a lot of work with other Commissioner Network schools around the state, and we know that the work he's done is highly respected throughout the state. He's kind of given us some resources and tools to kind of guide the work that we're going to be working on in the future. In terms of attendance, as Dr. Ortiz stated, attendance has been a concern of ours this year. with the pandemic going on, but we also know that historically Benny Dover has had chronic absenteeism issues. So what we've done, we've established building-wide procedures. We scheduled multiple home visits throughout the week, and we've done building-wide phone calls to make sure that even our most chronic students are being reached out to. And what we noticed is that a lot of our families have expressed to us that this is the most outreach that they've ever had in the past. So even though that our numbers are still high this year, we've been able to build positives in the communication and outreach with our families. So we've taken the negative of the pandemic, but we turned it into some positives as well. The hiring, in terms of recruitment and retention, that's something that was a real priority of mine coming into this new position. Similar to the high school, we wanted to make sure that the demographics of our staff mirror the demographics of our student population. Similar to the high school, our student demographics, we're nearing 90% of Black and Hispanic students, but our staff population is only at 27%. So I made that a personal mission of mine. I joined the Minority Recruitment and Retention Committee, and we worked extremely hard to kind of lower the disparity of numbers. Since I've been principal, we have made 16 hires, and that's those are hires that we've added and like ESOL positions and so on and so forth. Also brought on a new assistant principal. And out of those 16 hires, 11 have been staff of color. So I've made it a personal mission of mine to start equaling out and leveling out those numbers. So we've done a number of things here over the course of this year to help move us in the right direction. And I'm confident that if we get accepted, our plan gets accepted through the Commissioners Network, that work will continue. And as Lisa said, you know, I am a lifelong resident of New London. My own personal background is I started for almost 10 years at New London High School, starting out as a social studies teacher. I made the difficult decision to leave New London Public Schools to get administrative experience as assistant principal outside of our district. And during the second year there is when things unfolded here at Benny Dover. So I made it a personal mission of mine to come back and impact change and to specifically for this turnaround work. And so I am extremely proud of the work that we've done. Although I do know that we have a lot of work ahead of us, and that's where I'm hoping that we are accepted into the Commissioners Network. And I know the work that we can do with the turnaround office is a lot of work ahead of us, but I'm confident that we'll be able to work in collaboration with the state and the turnaround office and really give what the students deserve, and that's our absolute best. I've been in this district for over 10 years now, and I can honestly say from the bottom of my heart, this is the first time, because we've had a lot of several superintendents, we've had a lot of turnover with the administrative team, and this is the first time where we've had true unity from our superintendent, central office staff, administration, where we are all aligned and we have the same vision and what we want and expect out of our children. And with that unity and with the common vision moving forward, that is going to impact change in our schools. And I'm very confident in that. And so with that said, those are just some of our key highlights of what we worked on this year. And I would just like to thank everyone for your time and consideration. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And I just realized that I didn't ask for a motion for the before we began the discussion. So I'm going to ask for the motion for the consideration of the turnaround plan. Bonnie Dover Jackson.
Vice Chair Lopez, we have the motion. It was been and approved.
Oh my God! Thank you. Thank you so much. I have a lot of issues going on in my family environment, so which have nothing to do with the board meeting, and I apologize for that. So anyway, thank you. Thank you, Principal Van Vekides, for the update. And I'm going to ask my fellow board members if they have questions before I do ask you some questions.
So I have a question, Estella. This is a well done. Okay, so I heard from both high school and middle school that you have a rigorous recruitment plan to retain a diverse population of faculty, of teachers. Can you explain to me what does that mean? What is that plan? Define it, please.
Thank you. So,
What do you,
Superintendent,
yes.
is
Did
that?
you hear my question?
I did,
Yeah.
yeah. Was that question towards us as a school or Superintendent Ritchie at the district level?
Oh, at the school.
Thank you. Yep, so we have a newly formed this year Minority Recruitment and Retention Committee. It's a committee of central office staff, representatives from the administrative level and different staff within the schools. And what we've done this year, it is newly established this year. But it's a team of different staff throughout the district getting together to create, first off, the recruitment of staff, diversity, and then the retention of staff. And what we've done is created different subcommittees, 4 different subcommittees that have gone within the 2 different pathways. So we have to recruit first off and then retain. And what we've done is we are doing different job fairs to go off and recruit. We are reaching out to different colleges and universities to be able to recruit. And then in terms of retention, we are offering different supports for our new teachers that we have brought in. We've created a different program at the high school, which Dr. Ortiz, I'm not sure if he is here, but it's called an Educators Rising program at the high school, which it's taking he could speak to it more than I could if he was still on the call, but it's essentially taking high school students that could be interested in becoming future educators and encouraging them to participate in the program to one day hopefully come back and teach at New London Public Schools. So it's encouraging our own homegrown students to eventually come back and give back to our community. So it's just a certain wide range of different strategies and retention and recruitment supports such as those.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Estella, this is Bonnie. I have a question for Superintendent Ritchie. And both of these reports, it's for the superintendent, and both these reports, the teachers have identified that family engagement has been a challenge. What is your leadership team going to do to try to encourage families to be more participatory with both of these schools?
Yes, thank you for the question. Family engagement, involvement and engagement are both our priorities. And I would say this year, even with COVID, we've done more outreach and more opportunities through new platforms. So currently, every school has bi-monthly opportunities to connect with families virtually. Every school is also doing home visits to connect with families. And as Chris mentioned, the district has opened 12 subcommittees of the district, which are different than board subcommittees, to recruit and involve families in the education process. So we have multiple opportunities for families to serve on those committees, and many do. Besides school level coffee hours and outreach, we also sponsor district level coffee hours and outreach. So I am part of those. Those are all over our website. We've done over 100 meetings already this year for opportunities. And it's not just coffee and conversation. We also offer opportunities for learning. So we do have parent surveys that we take feedback from families on what would they like to learn about. And one benefit of COVID has been we've been able to sync more with the City of New London and share in partnerships for learning about mental health needs, food service needs, social emotional development of students. We've turned to those types of social service opportunities to learn about tools in the community together with the city. So that was one more level. And to this point, we are trying to recruit and hire as many parents as we can. We have a volunteer system for parents to volunteer, and then our own staff we're trying to build and promote to certified and or paraprofessionally certified positions within the district. Our climate survey is out, and that's another way we collect regular information from families, and then to react to that. We also publish information in a variety of ways. So you can learn about us through social media. We do regular phone calls. We also have a comprehensive newsletter called At a Glance that also has embedded videos in it of our district. As things are opening up, we will be fully in 5 days a week starting next week for all students. We are also opening up doors for families to within socially distanced regulation to also be present within our schools. Lastly, what comes to my head is our summer programming. We have a very comprehensive summer programming that is in place, advertised programming, and there are events for families specifically besides academic and enrichment events for students. So we are going to have family events throughout the summer where there are activities, and we can take the families for professional development and or conversation about topics of interest. So parents are integral partners, and we look forward to continuing to work with them.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments?
This is Bob. I had a couple. Maybe you could explain I had a hard time. I looked at your website. I really couldn't find the middle schools on the website. Is it like one middle school in 3 separate strands within there, or is it 3 middle schools physically? Is the principal responsible for all 3 or just 1, or can you just kind of clarify that?
Sure, yeah. So on the website, if you go, it's under secondary schools, and then from there it would be under Benny Dover campus. So yes, so we have one school, and in the school we have 3 different pathways. So we have STEM, arts, and international education. And for the purpose of Commissioners Network, just the international education is what we consider to be Benny Dover Jackson Middle School.
So the curriculum that you're implementing would that be implemented across all 3 sections, or just the Benny Dover part?
Yes, it will be. It will be implemented across all 3.
Okay. And I guess that, which is great. I mean, it'd be kind of very redundant to do it over 3 of them. I think you stepped into a big challenge. They talked about the year that it was really set you guys back. I Googled to figure out what happened, and I can see how it set you back. It's got to be a huge effect on the staff as well as the students. You've had a lot of turnover amongst faculty there. Which makes it even more difficult. Do you expect that with the initiatives that are in place, that will be reduced?
I do. And in fact, we've already seen a reduction from last year to this year. We had roughly, I would say about 10 staff turnover this past year. And out of those 10, we had 2 leave for administrative positions. We had 1 leave to go to medical school, and we had 3 that were transferred up to the high school. So much different than in years past. In years past, I know, there's been, probably about 20 or so teacher turnover. Almost on a yearly basis. So we've already started to see the effects of some of the things that we begin to implement, the relationships that we built, the support that we've already started building for staff. And I think that's already started to play a huge difference. And I think that you see the trend to continue to go down.
And you also have a very large proportion of a middle school that's English EL students. I take it that they're also new to the school. They're new to the district at that point also. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, we do have a new arrivals program for the students that are here within their first 3 years. What we've been able to do this year is we've added 2 ESOL teachers, which gives us the ability to have 1 per grade level. Next year, we will be adding tutors that will give us 2 tutors per grade level. With the addition, hopefully, of being added to the Commissioners Network, we will be adding an EL instructional coach that will be able to assist with our building our program as well. So we do have a lot of supports there, and I think that the addition of the Commissioners Network would really help us build our program to support all of our students, including a large number of EL learners.
And just the other thing I just point out, on your goals for culture and climate, where your reduction in the suspension rate of chronic absenteeism, I think you got some numbers from a different place, because those are not the same ones that are in Insight. These are much, your baseline is much higher than the baseline in here. So don't set yourself up for getting down to these numbers given where you're starting. You can worry about that later. Lisa will help you with it, I'm sure.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. Any other questions?
Estella, I do have, Aaron, I have some questions, well, more so comments. I do appreciate that Benny Dover is using this year to get ready for the acceptance into the network. In particular, when you talked about that you led a school-wide initiative to address attendance and the reach out that you did. And I think that sort of goes on with my colleague Bonnie asking that question about engaging, your families and your community. And I would urge you that should be something, it is a silver lining we hear from a lot of districts over this last year that, not from districts, from families saying that I've never heard from my school as much as I did this year. And I would encourage you not to let that fall away, like to keep that, because I think that's most important for them. Especially when you're addressing that chronic absenteeism. So I commend you on the list that you shared with us about what you were doing to prepare. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Anyone else? Anyone else? Let me sort of repeat what I said to the high school. I think there's no more significant job in Connecticut than the job you have before you, to educate the next generation of students. Students like me, I'm looking at Eric, who are going to be the citizens that will help Connecticut in the future. To see them not coming to school, to see them drop out, to see them suspended, it's really something that we cannot afford to do. So we have high expectations for you. I'm supportive of what you're proposing. I do hope, and I mean it with all my heart, that you will bring results to us that are significant, because we expect those results. And more than expect them, we demand those results for the sake of our students and for the sake of our state. I do appreciate the work that you're doing now, and look forward to seeing you in the next few years. Again, bring to us what you have learned and what you are implementing and the way you're working to ensure what we all wish for, that these students have the best opportunities. I know it's very hard work. I know it's difficult work, but we don't want to see New London stay where it is, where it has been. We need to see New London improve. It's such a beautiful place. I just love to go there and see the ocean and see the environment. So we want to see that in the schools. I do thank Superintendent Ricci and Principal, I'm hoping to pronounce your last name correctly, Van Vankitis, and for your commitment and your effort. And I do know, again, that you're trying to do this in a very systemic way through your planning, and that the goals you have for the middle school are very similar to those of the high school, so this can be transfer of learning. So again, with high expectations and with looking at the future in terms of the results you're going to bring, I'm going to ask the board to vote in favor of this motion. So we're ready to vote. So all those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye or yes or whatever.
Aye.
Aye. Good, thank you. Any opposed? Any abstention? Thank you so much, and thank you for coming today, and you've heard everybody and our wish for the future, so thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. We hope also to visit at some point. So that's part of the plan when we all get the freedom to sort of move freely through the state. So then I'm going to make sure that I ask for a motion for the next school and that I don't forget. So it's the approval of the Commissioner's Network Turnaround Plan for Willoughby High School in Waterbury. So I need a motion from for my fellow board members. I did a motion.
I'll move it.
Okay. And a second?
seems to be an issue with the audio from the room.
Oh, my God.
And
Yeah, we lost
getting
the
the room back
audio.
on.
Oh, my God. Do we need a recess? I can listen to everyone, I think, so.
Dr. Lopez, it looks like they may be taking a recess.
Okay.
Matt, are you there?
So we did approve the two new London schools, so then we're waiting for Wilby. Okay. This is not my day. The stars are not working in my favor.
Okay. So what I suggest then, I can run downstairs, but for the moment, I think we maybe, Dr. Lopez, you make a motion, I suppose. I'm sorry, I shouldn't do that, but we might have to take a recess and then we can assess where we're at.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say that we're recessing to fix the audio problems and we'll be back as soon as possible. So we're resuming, this is Estela Lopez, Vice Chair of the Board. We're resuming the meeting that we had to take a recess to ensure that the audio was working well so everybody could hear and participate. We had made a motion, there was a motion to consider the approval of the Commissioner's turnaround plan for Wilby High School in Waterbury, but I don't think we had seconded, or I think I didn't hear the second. So I would need it just to ensure, I need a second, and then we'll ask Lisa Lamenzo to present the plan and the superintendent and the staff from Waterbury. So I just need a second, somebody to volunteer to say second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Karen. And then I'm waiting for Lisa to come on. I don't see Lisa.
I am here. I'm in the room now.
Okay, fantastic, Lisa. Raise your hand so I can see you where you are. Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so lastly, we have Wilby High School from Waterbury with us here today for consideration into the Commissioners Network. We have Superintendent Dr. Ruffin here virtually, along with Principal Michelle Baker. I also want to recognize the turnaround office consultants Iris White and Greg Dresko, who worked with the Wilby team during this planning year. On April 6, 2020, the State Department received the expression of interest from Waterbury Public Schools for Wilby High School. After the selection of Wilby High School as a planning school, the audit was conducted on October 7th and 8th, 2020. The results of the audit served as the foundation of the application you have before you. I recently had the pleasure of visiting Wilby and saw the potential firsthand. In addition to the turnaround team and Wilby's administrative team, I was joined by Waterbury's new Chief Turnaround Officer, Matt Brown, who was a former Commissioners Network principal in New Haven. David Cormier, the lead external consultant, working not only with Wilby, but the 3 other Commissioners Network schools that were brought into the network last year. The eagerness from the leadership team and the teachers I spoke to was absolutely clear. They had pride in their work that they started this year around their Tier 1 essential instructional practices, and the intention around empowering students was clear in everything they said, they did that day and throughout this planning year. So at this time, I would like to give Superintendent Dr. Ruffin an opportunity to say a few words. Dr. Ruffin?
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you to all members of our state board. It's great to see you again, and I'm deeply honored to be here with you to talk about Wilby High School and your consideration for Wilby to be accepted into the Commissioners Network. We are so pleased in Waterbury to have a collaborative working relationship with the State Turnaround Office. We meet with them regularly. They're very supportive of us, and we have been engaged in this turnaround work as you approved turnaround schools for Waterbury last year. And it is so important to us to continue this work. It's challenging work, but certainly work that can be life-changing for our students here in Waterbury. We are deeply invested in the turnaround work in Waterbury. And as one of the steps that we have taken, we have hired a school turnaround officer, and he has worked very hard with all of our district schools and continues to do so and bring great expertise to the table in turning around schools in at least 2 states. So we're very fortunate to have him join the team. It serves as one of the many things that we are committed to in the turnaround work in Waterbury. Also, Wilby High School has done a tremendous amount of preparation work for this turnaround. We didn't wait in Waterbury, in other words, for anything to happen. We knew we had to and wanted to, because to provide equity for all of our students. This was such a critical need for the district. It was definitely evident that Wilby needed support outside of what it had previously gotten in the past. One of those many things was to make certain that we had a principal who was totally dedicated to that work, someone passionate to the work, someone with the courage to make some tough decisions. And when I asked Dr. Michelle Baker to take over Wilby as a turnaround school, she willingly did that because she has a deep passion for all children and knows some of the challenges that we have been faced with over the years at Wilby High School. So I'm very confident in her leadership skills, and having worked both at central office and in the schools, I know she brings the expertise to be able to drive this to the next level. Another point that is very important to us is that North End Middle School is also in the Commissioners Network that was approved last year. And North End Middle School and Wilby High School are on the same campus. They are adjoining. So the opportunity for collaboration and continue to work towards progress that we make at North End is really going to impact the work that we do moving forward with Wilby High School. So I respectfully am looking forward to your questions and your responses as we seek your approval for the Commissioners Network for Wilby, knowing that two schools benefit tremendously as a result of, if that happens, because of the collaborative work that can happen at North End that can continue at Wilby, which is one of our very most challenging high schools. And so I will then turn it over to you for any questions that you may have, or to Dr. Baker, whatever your desires are. But thank you so much for this opportunity to seek approval for Wilby today.
Thank you, Superintendent Ruffin. Principal Baker, do you want to say anything regarding your work, the challenging work that you have ahead of you?
Good morning. Yes, we do. We have prepared for you. First, I just wanted to say thank you for giving us this opportunity, as Dr. Ruffin said. And this past school year, we did embark on our planning year. And we built very strong foundational work that we believe is going to lead some very lasting changes for Wilby High School students, staff, and our community. We did a deep dive into our current performance. We used the Commissioners Network audit in addition to work that we've been doing with our NEASC accreditation to examine where Wilby needs to make sustained improvements and, frankly, at times, even radical changes. Our turnaround committee met regularly. We brought together a group of stakeholders who provided an incredible array of perspectives and expertise in analyzing both the root causes and as well the actual evidence-based initiatives where we were going to be able to move forward in 4 areas of talent, academics, culture, climate, and operations. We understand that these 4 areas do not work in isolation, and we've worked really tirelessly to create a cohesive plan that allows us to use all of the high leverage strategies and our data in really multidimensional ways. While changes have begun in our school, we have a long way to go. And before I dive more deeply into those 4 priority areas, I just want to highlight 2 overarching strategic assets that we see Wilby as having in seeking to become part of the Commissioners Network. First, our primary feeder middle school, much like Dr. Ruffin just said, indeed is physically attached to our campus. They're finishing up by what all accounts is a very strong first year in the Commissioners Network. We've worked incredibly closely with them during our planning year, and we've aligned all of our professional development approaches on Tier 1 instruction and our instructional coaching. This alignment is a crucial bridge to creating a common professional learning of Tier 1 effective strategies for North End and Wilby, and it allows students to experience a cohesive transition from middle school to high school. Our intention is to continue that tight collaboration, which frankly has the potential to compound exponentially the improvement for our student performance. Secondly, it's painfully clear that any real conversation about school turnaround in Connecticut is very often a conversation at its heart about equity. We've been eager participants in our district equity work, and our plan proposal addresses many concerns that we have in our district in ways that we think are new and innovative ways. Briefly, in the area of talent, our root cause analysis revealed just longstanding history of significant concerns about instruction being developed with and delivered with fidelity and rigor. So our first major priority is going to be we're utilizing intense professional learning and coaching cycles to address the practices that enhance all of the efficacy of our Tier 1 rigorous instruction for all staff. This is going to require intense professional learning and our shared leadership team to implement job-embedded instructional coaching cycles. That team is going to, in essence, help train our new and our seasoned teachers to deliver instruction. We feel like that's going to assist us in retaining the newly hired teachers that we acquired this past school year, who are high quality teachers. And we think it's also going to help us address our specific critical shortage areas such as science, math, and special education. WILBE's second major priority is to dramatically improve the academic performance of our students. This priority demands a targeted and concrete plan to increase the student academic achievement across all of the content areas and our grade levels. We've identified our top priority of strengthening the effectiveness of Tier 1 instruction, but we inherently need the differentiation and individualized instruction of Tier 2 and Tier 3 to ensure that we have a multi-tiered system of supports. We will strengthen the capacity of our instructional data teams and establish an actual SRBI system for academics and behavior embedded for all of our students right within the school day. The culture and climate priority is a major focus for WILBE and in our plan, as we've historically struggled with student attendance and parent involvement. WILBE traditionally loses many students to other high schools in Waterbury due to special programming, and in addition to programs outside of our public schools. Our key strategy is going to be to engage parent academic leadership staff and creating parent leadership coalitions. These staff will be hired and trained in conducting parental focus groups, doing relational home visits, creating school-based evidence events that are going to allow for both of our families and our staff expectations to be deeply understood as a shared and common vision. That shared vision is going to allow us to build relationships with families and staff so that we can focus on using common academic vocabulary. That enables parents' ability to share in supporting our students' sense of belonging at WILBE, and it navigates their child's educational success well beyond the 4 years of high school. Additionally, we've already begun the work in strengthening our 9th grade academy, in addition to our career and technical education programs. We believe that's going to promote strong and family community engagement. The relevance of that career ready education is like a prime connector for our students and families. And we believe WILBE's shift to build those CTE programs is going to positively impact all of our student attendance and our family connections. Just lastly, in the area of operations, multiple student surveys, focus groups, meetings with us as administrators just revealed time and time again that our students wanted to be able to stay after school and engage in opportunities to not only get assistance with academic support, but they wanted acceleration. They want more about, being able to develop that sense of belonging and empowerment and leadership. They asked us for clubs and after school enrichment opportunities. So you'll see in our plan, we've created multiple extended learning opportunities for those clubs and acceleration to happen all after school. In addition to, we created an 8th grade bridge program for 8th graders to participate from North End Middle School in leadership academies with our current WILBE High School students who are learning already how to do mentoring programs that emphasize student voice and empowerment. Just in closing, I want to thank the board. Thank you very much to the turnaround director, Lisa Lomenzo, and our turnaround consultants, Iris White and Greg Dresco. All of the staff at the turnaround office really helped us create this cohesive plan that we feel has through lines between all 4 of those areas that can drive the work at the heart of Tier 1 instruction. And we would appreciate any opportunity to continue to travel this path with the Commissioners Network. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Questions for Waterbury? Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, good morning, Dr. Ruff and Dr. Baker. Principal Baker, you had mentioned how you're trying to really inspire and do better with parent involvement. And I noticed you didn't say parent engagement. And I think that's really critical because I think a lot of times people believe that parent engagement and parent involvement are the same thing. And they are very, very different. And so I was wondering if you could talk about parent engagement that would probably inspire involvement, if you could.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you pointed that out because there's a two-pronged approach that we put into our plan. And you'll notice that in addition to creating those parent academic leaders who are going to help us create all the different events and activities, the first strategy that we embedded was what was called a parent leadership coalition. We were very, very fortunate to be able to work with members of the Turnaround Office in Henderson out of Washington, D.C. And we used the literature that was put forward by the State Department in 2018 about, like you said, utilizing parent engagement, utilizing our parent voice to actually drive what are going to be the events that we run for our parents, what is important to our families, so that, again, like you said, it's not us just creating a topic and saying, come, it's our parent focus groups that are telling us those topics, and then our parents leading those events with us as a part of that parent leadership coalition. So yes, thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you.
Questions for Waterbury?
This is Bob. I had a couple of questions.
Go ahead, Bob.
Dr. Baker, your enthusiasm is what it's going to take to do this job. I really, I feel better just meeting you online. You've got your hands full with this. And I guess one of the things that I'm just kind of curious about is, you talk about, tier 1 and differentiated instruction within tier 1. And can you just kind of explain what that means? What is it now? And what would you like to see it be in these classrooms? It sounds like it's just getting mailed in. That right now there's, if you get it, you get it.
Right, and I'm thank you for bringing that point. The foundational work that we've already done this year, I have to say, has been tremendous amount of work around the tier 1 instruction that's being led with Dr. David Cormier. Our goal was to have that common vernacular, not just for students, but that way parents are hearing that same common vernacular, staff know that same vernacular. But that tier 1 instruction, this whole first year was all about creating guidelines and teaching what those research-based strategies were. That's one thing. The next level is taking those strategies now and embedding them into what are the instructional practices that are around that live feedback that's happening not just for adults, but for students to lead their own conversations in classrooms. Our next level of work is taking our data teams to a level where we're able to look at student level data in addition to our school level data, allow our adults to look at the adult strategies, but then allow our students to do that progress monitoring for themselves. So our next level work is saying, if you are successful in that tier 1, wonderful, and you're meeting those needs and you're self-monitoring that progress. All of Hattie's research, everything we know about scientific research-based is students leading their own learning. But tier 2 and tier 3 at this point are non-existent. We were very fortunate that Dr. Ruffin had that coherence through line with us and already embedded for this school year some behavior counselors within our system, and has already allowed us the opportunity to build a tier 2 classroom for next year for our students in math and ELA. We are already working with CERC and ready to pilot year 1 of what tier 2 would look like for our students. So now we'll give targeted tier 2 instruction in addition to that kind of after school enrichment piece, which is that sense of belonging.
And if I can just truly unpacking what those strategies are to the foundational level of what does it look like in the classroom, what does it sound like, so that it's very actionable and tangible. So those flipboards are great. I've seen them myself, but unless you're seeing them and they're translating into practice, and teachers and staff, support staff, have time to grapple with what does this really mean, then it's not as impactful. So that's also an additional layer of work that is has started and will continue to move on.
If you could share that your visual stuff with us, it would be a great learning experience for us too.
Absolutely.
I have a copy upstairs.
Thank you.
I can bring it down.
Thanks.
Estela, I have a question. This is Awilda.
Go ahead, I will.
Can you hear? Oh, you can hear me without the mic, that's cool. Oh, that's fine. It's enough challenging with the math. Right, my question is, I want to bring it back to the identifying the recruitment and retention of diversity staff, because it seems like you had it's like a roller coaster. And where are you now, especially now with the pandemic? Our students need, in Waterbury, we're talking Waterbury, Willoughby High School. How is that being conducted, and are you being intentional with retaining our diversity? Please tell us more about that.
Absolutely. I have to first give that tremendous shout out to Dr. Ruffin has started that central office through line. She's created our human capital office. Is no longer a human resource office. Our human capital office is not just about finding the highest quality teachers. They are actively pursuing the retention of all those teachers through probably the best professional development the city of Waterbury has had in my 28 years in being here. So the through line from central office is they are recruiting high quality teachers. We, in essence, at Willoughby have reaped the benefit. I can say that last May, we already got in, we recruited 20 new teachers onto our staff who were just young, highly qualified dynamos. We are finding minority teachers and we are hiring. And our goal this year will be, because the turnover that we got and the new people we got were so amazing, our goal is to retain all 100% of them. We don't want to lose them to any other talent. And you'll notice in our plan, we built that into the talent portion. We built in monthly networking for all of those first-year teachers to be able to work with our mentor teachers. And like Mr. Haxey, when he spoke in the public forum, he said it's really researched the sense of energy amongst all of the teachers by bringing in our new recruits. So yes, there is a multi-tiered level approach, not just from the district level, but even at the school level, to retain those teachers by ensuring that we don't just meet their academic needs, but we meet their emotional needs as human beings and staff, and frankly, a field that's really difficult right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Questions for Waterbury? Then let me again thank Waterbury for putting the plan together. Since I been serving on the board many moons ago, many centuries ago, Waterbury has always been one of the challenges that we have faced, because we always hope for its improvement. And that improvement has never materialized the way we expected it and wanted it to see it. Dr. Ruffin came. I had the pleasure of meeting her at the beginning of her tenure, and I was extremely hopeful of the work that she will be doing in Waterbury. And I'm delighted to see her leading this reform with Willoughby and the new principal. We're very hopeful. Also, Waterbury is a district where enrollment is increasing, like many other districts. You have more students this year than before. So it's an interesting situation, an interesting challenge of being able to educate more students the right way, the right approach. I'll say to you what I said to Nilondo: we have high hopes for Waterbury. We have high expectations. And in my case, I have very little patience, because for centuries that I've served on the board, I've been hearing that it's going to improve. I do believe in Dr. Ruffin's leadership. I do believe in Principal Baker's leadership. And I want to see those results for our students, for Connecticut, and for the city of Waterbury. I had questions regarding the support you've been given to the Willoughby, but I heard that. I like very much the collaboration with the middle school. I'm delighted to hear that also. And I'm glad to hear also the knowledge and awareness of dealing with instructional issues, bigger recruitment of teachers, appropriate recruitment, and also the reaching out to families to ensure that they're supportive of their students and dealing with absenteeism and school suspensions. So I do know that you have all the right strategies that need to be addressed. What I want is results, really to see results. And I'm counting on both of you, because I do believe that you have the commitment, the passion, the talent to make it happen. I'm counting, so before I go into nursing home, I can see Waterbury, the beacon that it should be. The schools in Waterbury, the beacon that it should be. And again, for students who look like me and deserve the best education ever. So very helpful. And I want to thank Lisa's office and her team for working with us, supporting you and believing in you. Because I had a conversation with Lisa, and she truly believes in your ability to turn it around. So I think if there are no more questions, we're ready to vote. So all those in favor of approving the solutions that were turned around plan for Willoughby High School, please say yes or raise your hand. And
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Anyone else who wants to not vote? Thank you so much. And again, we have high expectation for Waterbury and for you. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the report is here, and I do have a report. So we received a resolution last night that was sent by Aldi, and before we talk about the resolution, I need a motion to sort of get the board approval of the resolution. So I would need a motion and somebody to.
Second.
Okay, fantastic. Then let me talk about the resolution. We are in a week that honors teachers, and my good colleague Erin reminded me of the importance of saying something publicly in this board meeting about the teachers that work in Connecticut and that have been heroes. So I think it's critical that we do so, that we recognize them officially. And I'm gonna ask Erin, who is the teacher among us, entire teacher among us, to read the resolution. Erin, if you could read it, and then we're gonna vote on it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Estella. To be proposed May 5th, whereas Connecticut teachers have played and continue to play an integral role in responding to the state's pandemic-related educational emergency, and whereas in this educational crisis, in this most important of professions, teachers have gone above and beyond to support and keep students learning while maintaining the safety of our schools. And whereas teachers who are critical to the success and growth of our children and society continue to display an extraordinary and heightened sense of commitment to provide equitable access to the best possible outcomes for all students. And whereas teachers' Herculean efforts to adapt, improvise, and overcome the challenges of this academic year have kept students engaged and connected to the school communities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Connecticut State Board of Education stands in admiration of the heroism teachers have demonstrated as the Lighthouse has provided safe harbors for our students and honors the profession's lasting legacy on inspiring and shaping future generations.
I was muted. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm not even going to ask if there's somebody that is opposed. So thank you so much, Erin. Bravo. We need to applaud our teachers. We really need to acknowledge their incredible work this year, and that will continue. And I appreciate anything we can do for them and any recognition we can bring to them. So thank you. I don't know if anybody wants to say anything regarding the resolution or regarding teachers. I think this is an appropriate moment to say so.
Vice Chair Lopez, I just wanted to add my thanks to this as well. For those on social media, I sent out a tweet yesterday, really appreciating our amazing teachers. And you said, just based on the challenges of this past year, and I think we've had a front row seat in trying to make sure we could support all their efforts. And I'm sure everyone here and those watching maybe thinking about your favorite teacher that has shaped your life. And so we know how critically important they are. So just want to add on behalf of the department, our appreciation to the board resolution that just went by. I mean, the words are just really awesome. And it is a sentiment that we all share. But really, thank you to all our educators, all our teachers, and for the work that they're doing every single day.
Thank you, Commissioner, and absolutely. Thank you so much. And from there, we move to financial matters. Kathy, you're smiling, so they must be very good financial matters.
Vice Chair Lopez, right? It is 12:01. Good afternoon, board members. I wanted to just provide a brief overview of the budget that was released by the Appropriations Committee of the General Assembly on the 21st of April. This is, as I had mentioned earlier on, this is kind of the next step in the budget process. And once the Appropriations Committee has released their budget, then begins the negotiations in earnest between the administration and the legislature about what will finally end up being passed, hopefully on time. A couple of items. There is an additional 6 positions that are being proposed being added to our SDE central office. Those positions are in the area of special education, one for the fiscal office, and then 4 positions for a newly created Office of Training Compliance, which is related to dyslexia. In regards to the technical high school system, the governor's budget had proposed delaying the separation of CTEX from the department until after this upcoming biennium, which would have brought us to fiscal 25. However, the Appropriations Committee modified that, and they actually are recommending that the separation occur in fiscal 23. And they have included funding for additional staff to support CTEX, the 17 positions in the world language areas. And we've heard from Superintendent Wibby about how they are ramping that up so that they are able to meet that credit requirement. They also are providing in the budget for an additional 14 positions for shortage area related teachers. One of the things that was included, and I know our board member, Erin Benham, was particularly interested in one of the bills that was around modifying the ECS funding, and not only modifying it, but kind of incorporating some of the choice programming into it and seeing if that would accomplish providing greater equity in funding between the various types of school programs. So that bill has the language, and Laura can correct me if I'm wrong, it's been modified to actually do a study during the upcoming year for the legislature's budget office is to do a review of that legislation and the potential impact on districts and on the various choice programs. But in the meantime, what they did do is make several changes to the weightings for the student counts. They increased the weighting in the ECS formula for L students from 15% to 25%. And they lowered the low-income concentration threshold from 75% of students receiving free reduced price lunch to 60% of students, which increases the number of towns that are eligible for that bump in funding. And they also increased the weight for that source of funding from 5% to 15%. Unlike the governor's budget, which had proposed level funding the ECS formula for the biennium, the Appropriations Committee budget proposes continuing the phase into full funding in fiscal 28. They also added a new piece for our alliance districts, a reservation of 10% of any of their increase in ECS over their fiscal 2020 entitlement must be dedicated to minority teacher recruitment and training. So those are the changes that are actually will be part of the negotiations with the administration on ECS. But as I said, that larger question of funding and equity among funding sources for the different types of school programs will be addressed during a task force in the upcoming year, provided that legislation passes. A couple other quick highlights under our choice programming. The Open Choice program, which, and this was a recommendation in the governor's budget, is being expanded to offer a pilot program for students in Danbury and Norwalk. So funding, the legislature did move forward with funding for that. Our vocational agricultural grant increased the per pupil grant amount by $1,000 per pupil. So the current base per pupil that we're paying off is $4,200. So beginning next year, if this budget passes, it would move to $5,200. The remaining item that I wanted to highlight for you is the governor's budget proposed in the Appropriations Committee also agreed to it, increasing the per pupil grant amount for our charter school students from $11,250 to $11,525. $11,525 is the foundation level in ECS, just to give you a sense of where they came up with that number. They also included the cost of expanding the grade levels at the Stanford Charter School for Excellence to grades 6 to 8. And they were restored funding that was eliminated in the governor's budget for bilingual education. And they're specifically talking about distributing those funds amongst the state charter schools to start assisting them with providing the necessary services for English language learners. So that is a highlight of where we are with the budget. I am happy to answer any questions that you have, and I'll stop now.
Thank you, Kathy. Questions for Kathy?
I have a question, Chair, to Kathy. Kathy, the newly created Office of Training Compliance, right? Are we talking 4 positions?
Yes, that is the recommendation.
4? Oh, that is the recommendation. 4. What? They're newly. What was happening before? There was no one in these positions?
So maybe I can jump in there, Kathy, and with Laura. It's proposed new legislation to create this new office within the agency. That's maybe one of 3 proposed legislation to create new offices within the department.
Whoa, okay. Okay, that's clear. So it's just a matter of waiting, because this was proposed in April, right, 21, as I'm seeing here. So any idea as to, when everything will be amended, passed?
The last day of the legislative session is June 9th.
So we still have to wait to see those pass as written.
You hope it's June 9th. Yeah. You hope it's June 9th. Right, Bonnie, all right.
Any other questions for Kathy?
Kathy, thank you for that update on the bill 948. As my committee knows that we've been pondering that school choice discussion for quite some time now, for almost 2 years, and I know that sort of addresses it. So it's going to be interesting to see where that goes, and you know, to the point that we at least have some kind of review of a upcoming task force if it passes. So thank you for that information. The committee thanks you.
And Chair Estella, it's nicely, I like the way it was nicely broken down. So thank you, Kathy and Commissioner. We're just willing to help. Nice and clear.
Other questions or comments? And Kathy, I think the ECA formula is always, there's always a task force. How many task forces are reviewing? And you know, I am sorry, but when I hear that it says, it means to me postponing it forever, you know.
Yeah. We'll give them a task force so they don't ask questions.
Yeah,
Right.
hopefully, Vice Chair Lopez, it will give us some information. The one thing I do find helpful about task forces, and it's probably the only thing, is that it requires us to accumulate data and look at it in a specific way.
Okay.
And that data does help inform then as we move forward changes.
Okay.
So there is some hope to the task force.
I appreciate your optimism, Kathy. That's very helpful. Thank you.
And Kathy, as you know, you have a lot of data already to bring to that task force.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, Erin. Any other comment? Thank you for the update. We have the consent agenda, so I need a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Any questions, any comments? Then all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We're going to have the agency update, and then Charlene and I had a brief conversation that the college enrollment, which is a report that takes time, and because of the sound challenges today, would not benefit from a late discussion at the end of the meeting. We're going to postpone it. This is one of my favorite reports that Jean knows it, and I absolutely love it. I find it very helpful, important, essential. So to give it credit, we're going to postpone it and not do it today. Okay? Is that okay with everyone? Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Russell Tucker, go ahead with the agency update.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lopez. I think I see some smiles in the room about postponing that. But thank you. We have, as you know, Vice Chair Lopez said something which is so critically important. Things are moving ever so quickly, and we always want to make sure that you have information, as I know you receive phone calls sometimes as things are occurring. So we want to make sure that you have information. So we'll quickly walk you through a few things. You can go to the next slide. Some more information, and we'll ask about summer enrichment. To talk a little bit about an infusion of investment that the governor made to over $10 million for learner engagement and attendance program. John will share some updates because it connects to the two districts that were just here, that they're going to get some additional support to address attendance and parent engagement. Updates on remote learning, information on rigorous coursework letters that were, you probably got some information on that, or learning models. Quick update on our American Rescue Plan and where we are with that, and then our shout out at the end. So Chris Sumner is going to give us an update. He's been all over the news trying to promote the program. So Chris.
Great. Good afternoon to the board. Thank you, Commissioner Russell Tucker, and good to see everyone. Everybody smile, please. We're almost there. It's the home stretch. Right, so I'm going to go through this quickly. There was $11 million in the American Rescue Plan that was set aside specifically for summer enrichment. This is similar to agency set aside funds in the previous packages, but this one specifically was spelled out in the legislation for summer enrichment. And so we had to basically set up a process to deploy these funds out to programs. And this focuses on those local community programs that provide summer enrichment in their communities. And so what we did was we broke it down into two phases, expansion grants and innovation grants. The expansion grants are for awards up to $25,000. And again, this is for programs that want to maybe serve more students. Maybe they were serving 80 students and now they want to serve 100 students, or maybe they offer scholarships to families to subsidize those costs. But when you think about the expansion grants, think about access, expanding access. And then we also recognize that there were some entities out there that maybe had some bold and innovative ideas. And so these grants are from $50,000 to $250,000. And those are for entities that are doing things on a regional or statewide scale. Maybe they have components that they can infuse into those local programs and that don't have the extra money to layer on. So that's basically the overview of expansion grants and innovation grants. The one distinction that I want to make here, because this is a question that we've gotten a lot. So the governor made two announcements. The first announcement was about this $11 million grant program. The second announcement he made was as part of his American Rescue Plan package that he had to present to the legislature. And within that was this commitment to scholarships for summer programs. So we've gotten questions about the scholarships for summer programs, but remember that those funds are tied up with the legislature and they are essentially going to get approved probably by late May or June. And so if you kind of get questions about these scholarships for families, if programs do apply for these grant funds, they could potentially provide scholarships within their programs. But this kind of governor's driven scholarship program, that's not going to potentially get approved until late May or early June. Next slide, please. Great. And so the last thing that I wanted to share is about eligibility. We've received a lot of questions about eligibility, some grumblings about who's eligible and who's not. And this is really to keep in line with some of the federal reporting requirements that we have, and also who we normally grant with in the past. And so I won't go too much into detail, but I think one of the main things that's relevant here is that we did open up the funding to districts that received less than $50,000 in their ESSER II allocation. And that was to recognize that they didn't get any money in ESSER II. They maybe want to do some things around summer, so we opened it up for them. Essentially, this is for licensed camps. Again, those small community-based programs that are already doing camps. If you hear any grumblings about why certain programs are not eligible, they can always partner with an eligible entity. And the message that we've sent out is that if we're not doing summer differently than what we did in 2019, then we're missing an opportunity, because there's ESSER II funds, there's these summer grants, and then also municipalities have opportunities to use their funds for parks and recs and similarly. So the grants are due this Monday. It's a quick turnaround when we announced it. And then we're going to also quickly turn around the award notifications on May 24th. And there's a website here that people can learn more information. And we're constantly reviewing that email that comes in with questions. So I'm happy to stop there and answer any questions.
Questions for Chris? No questions. Excellent, Chris. I think people are hungry.
I don't mind being last on the agenda.
Moving right along. Thank you, Chris. And John is here just to do a brief update, because it is relevant to learn about this investment that will be supporting 15 or more districts, including the 2 districts that came in front of you this morning. So they can actually augment the efforts that they're making to this additional $11 million. John?
All right, so I'm a nutritionist and a dietitian, so I can't rightly keep you away from lunch, right? So very quickly, most of the information is on the slide. We're in the process of working directly with each of our RESCs have districts of the 15 districts that they're working directly with, including, as the commissioner said, New London and Waterbury. The big picture here is RESCs are engaging with districts who are engaging with their community partners to build on existing successes around engaging students and families. If they've got a program that's working, we're building on that and we're enhancing those programs. It's built around building relationships with families. It's built around a series of home visits and developing relationships with families. And we have Attendance Works, who you are all aware of as our national partner in working with supporting student engagement and attendance. And the idea is to try to get kids and families engaged to get back to school now before the end of the school year, to connect them with summer enrichment and summer learning, Chris's programs and additional programs in the districts to get them caught up and accelerate learning in the summer, and then welcome them back to school with success in the fall. More details will be upcoming as we continue to roll out the program. Thank you, Commissioner.
Any questions? Fantastic.
All right, keepers, moving along. A nice segue to think about remote learning, and you've heard a lot about that. So Attorney Myrtle, can you update us on that?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. So, we've had some conversations in the legislative and policy committee meeting, and I think we will continue to have those conversations. But one of the things that the department wanted to do was ensure that we answered, for the purposes of preparation, what was considered a threshold question that we're getting from a lot of perspectives, which is, will the department, in conjunction with the recommendations from CPH, require all school districts to provide remote learning all day, every day, for sure, to anyone who was interested. And so I worked closely with some of our stakeholders, CAP, our union folks, our RESC, and received a lot of input, and we are going to continue to do that moving forward as we discuss what remote learning looks like moving forward. I think one of the things we want to celebrate is how amazing remote learning, the transition to remote learning was, considering the circumstances. What could have in a different world and a very thoughtful process would have to, obviously have to happen very, very quickly. But we've all recognized the importance of in-person learning and the importance of access to that school environment, access to diverse student relationships, adult relationships. And so we did confirm for school districts that we would not anticipate, based on the current public health circumstances, a mandate that all schools provide remote learning next year. But that we just want to remind, to take something that's being discussed federally, building back better, or moving forward, not moving backwards. We're going to continue to look at ways in which we can have judicious use of remote learning in concert with in-person learning, so that we really make sure we take advantage of what we've learned about the use of technology going forward. So I anticipate that I'll be discussing that starting in our committee meeting, and then also engaging with each of you. And I've already received many folks who are interested in continuing to be part of the input around what are the guardrails going forward. And one of the things that we're also looking to reference the legislative session, is what does the legislature ultimately decide? Because a lot of this will be something that there are potentially boundaries on, just based on what the law permits. So, hopefully in the next few months, we'll be able to make a lot of progress with that. And we felt like it was appropriate, however, to answer that threshold question.
Questions for Attorney Myrtle? Any questions?
Yes, it's Bob. You read in the paper about a lot of school districts, or some school districts, saying we will not be providing remote learning opportunities next year. Is that pretty prevalent?
We've heard a lot of different perspectives. And so I think that's why we're going to be trying to do really strong stakeholder engagement and work on what is the next step about, in order to provide some feedback and guidance going forward. So we've definitely heard that there were a lot of challenges, you know, especially for our educators. And again, you know, we've always emphasized the importance of in-person access for our students to maximize their experience, both educationally and then also their social emotional support.
And we also receive feedback from families on some who want to continue to have access to remote learning. So really that's where we are.
Yeah. A balancing, Commissioner, that we're trying to do. So we're continuing to receive that feedback and you know, of course, welcome any feedback that you might want to provide.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay.
Yes, so I just had a question. Along these lines, Jessa, I know we're approaching what we did last year when we voted on some waivers for the start of the school year. Has there been any of those discussions? I mean, I'm almost looking at, you know, coming up to this school year, we still have districts that we're probably going to be in need of having maybe a little extra time to engage their staff. In particular, we have some districts that just went back full time yesterday. So are we considering that? I know last year we expanded it for PD use only. Is that any discussions being held at the department of maybe doing that again and addressing that?
Yeah, so I haven't been engaged in any of those discussions, but since you raised it, certainly I can bring it back to our staff and, you know, ensure that I'm in the know if those conversations are happening, and if not, you know, ensure that they're aware that you mentioned that as something that, you know, because I'm guessing there are some districts that are still going to have some struggles of opening again in September with just new systems, new ways of doing things that, you know, we're not going to just say, oh, remote's over and now you're back to normal, because we know that's not going to happen. Yeah, I think one thing I can say is that in our prior fiscal priorities, we have mentioned the importance of providing professional development and then just development, both for families and for educators, as we learn so much. So, you know, I think, again, I'm in those conversations, so maybe part of it can also be around when do we find the time for that.
Yeah, I know we made those kind of decisions like in June. I think it was we let districts know that they had this opportunity, you know, this opportune time, and many of them used it. You know, I'm thinking of all the new staff that went in last year, really didn't really get a clear opening to a school year, and now we have another new set of staff. Really, we're like using both new sets of staff coming in. You know, because I think there will be challenges, especially for some of our districts that have been pretty much closed for the entire year. We have many districts that have been open since August on some way, and maybe not been as much, but I know it was up to them and how they could use that PD, and I'm just wondering if that's something you could come up with some of the conversation.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for the input.
And it's a great place to also think about how summer can be used for really great planning.
Right.
And we continue to work very closely with the Department of Public Health, that we're monitoring what's going on the health front. So because that is still going to inform all our actions and what we do. And a part of it, we'll talk briefly about the American Rescue Plan, that infusion of resources to help to support districts will have to create a reopening plan, right? That will need stakeholder engagement. Kathy will talk about that briefly. So I think all of that, to your point though, is that we've been looking holistically together about how do we get as prepared as we can over the next few months before we get back to reopen and be able to plan for that. So this board, you will be engaged. There were resolutions that you passed that, you know, that I think we'll need to take a look at.
I can almost foresee it. I think of your calls on Tuesday, that so many of our districts, it's not going to be like, all right, we're done with the Department of Health. I think now the Department of Health is going to be right next to the education department in each district and moving them with each other, as they should be. But I could almost see a PD just for educational staff that is run by the Department of Health. I could almost see that as a necessity,
One of the positive things to share, and I'm accumulating emails and a handwritten personal postcard from folks. Erin mentioned our Tuesday meetings, and since August 4th we started those, and we still get over 600. I call them our now close friends that join us every Tuesday morning. And really hearing from even local health, basically saying that this process has allowed them to strengthen and develop their relationship with school districts. So really, I think one of the impact of the positive outcomes of having to kind of be thrust into working together like this is really those relationships that forge, which I think is so critical moving forward, as you mentioned.
Yes, very much so.
Perfect, thank you. I'm going to keep moving, Vice Chair Lopez. I wanted to update you on rigorous coursework. We mailed out for the 8th year, consecutive year, letters, and there's Ajit to talk to us about that. 37,000 or so letters to families. Go ahead, Ajit.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep. You may have to project a little bit.
Okay. Thank you, Charlene, for that intro. Yes, we did send out over 37,000 letters to students in 10th and 11th grade, encouraging them to take rigorous courses in high school. And what do we mean by rigorous courses? We're talking about advanced placement, international baccalaureate program, or dual enrollment courses, which exist with our Connecticut's universities and colleges. And those dual enrollment courses may be college focused. They may also be career focused. So we shouldn't discount the career focused side of things here. So we have been sending these letters to students for the past 8 or so years. And what happened this year, a couple of things happened a little different, and I would just want to bring attention to the board. One was that in the past, we used to use only the PSAT for this identification, the PSAT that students would take in 10th or 11th grade. But with the pandemic, far fewer students took that assessment. So it was a much smaller number. Plus, we had wanted for many years to consider using our middle school assessments, which we knew a little bit earlier, but now we knew for sure are highly correlated with the PSAT. So they're kind of giving the same kind of information about student readiness for rigorous courses, but also we would be able to know this much sooner in a student's career, academic career in high school. So we used the middle school assessments this year because there were far fewer PSATs to work with. That ended up getting us over 15,000 students who we were able to identify as having potential for rigorous courses. We partnered with Todd Rogers at Harvard University, who actually recommended sending 2 letters, one that's sort of addressed to the parent or child of the student, and the other one to the student directly. For all the prior years, we only sent the student letters. And I have to say that as a parent, when you get a letter that says to the parent or guardian of, you open it. If it's addressed to the child, you give it to the child. And part of the thinking here is that if we want action on this, we've got to address it directly to the parents. So that's something different. The letters are still going out this year. We do recognize a couple of things that we're going to rectify going forward. One of the key things is that many of the students who receive our letters are already taking some of these courses, right? So in grades 10 or 11, they're already taking some of these courses. So we're sort of rephrasing our letter to sort of acknowledge that work that students already are doing. But secondly, we're also going to send these letters to students even earlier in their academic career because we're using the middle school assessments. We're able to send these letters to students in 9th and 10th grade starting next year. So that's kind of the amendments we're making to our process going forward. I'll pause and take any questions.
I think this is
Go ahead.
I appreciate that there's been, I think, some pushback from some of the letters. I think that you all have heard, and my own children got the letters as well, and right after getting it, I had 3 parents contact me about getting the letters, and not in a positive sort of way, which I was kind of shocked about. And it was from the perspective of this year being a particularly difficult year for students, and students that are already taking rigorous courses, then sort of feeling like, one, doesn't the State Department know what I'm taking, right? Recognizing that that's not the level that you all are aware of. But then second, also students feeling as though there's a lot of pressure in order to take that. And in this particular year, the additional pressure of do more was additionally anxiety producing. And so I'm not sure what to do with that, but I wanted to relay back some of the messages that I received related to that. I tried to explain sort of the rationale behind it, but I understand from, from that other perspective too, that this year has been a difficult year. And explain that level of detail of what courses are they taking is not necessarily something that the State Department is tracking. Another is also the timing. You were mentioning timing, moving it to like 9th and 10th grade. But actually the timing of getting the letter this year, every parent that I already talked to, which was from 3 different school districts, they had already done their course selection for next year by the time they got the letter. So if there's a way of addressing some of those things and moving it up to earlier in the school year if possible, might be better.
And so, thank you, and I know I wanted to share it here because exactly my emails, I got a lot of responses and to the response you made, but also those who took the time to say, this is the one bright spot in the year. And folks who said, it just made their day, or students, they can't wait for the student letter to arrive, and for the state to have acknowledged that work, or those who said, I didn't know that, no one has ever had that conversation with me about my child's potential. And so, which I think was the genesis behind this at the end, that we were saying as a state, so we've learned and we're learning from the process, but it was even yesterday, I think we got a just heartwarming letter, from families saying, thank you for acknowledging this. And we heard the other one as well. So it is informing how we go forward.
Well, and I wanted to say too that I was shocked about the pushback comments that I got, because I also felt like nice acknowledgement, like the positives that you expressed, and I also understand that there were those other positives as well.
Absolutely. Anything else there? We're moving on. You can talk about learning models.
Just wanted to acknowledge that we'd heard those similar sentiments. I think that was Malia, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we definitely heard some of those similar sentiments from some of the parents who reached out to us, which we're so grateful for. Going forward, you'll see on the slide, it's a little tiny font. The last sentence, we're not only moving it to grade 9 and 10, because we're using our state assessments from middle school, we can actually do this notification starting in the fall. You're absolutely correct about the timing of course selection, which happens in Connecticut really in late January. And early February, students are pretty much done with their courses for next year. So we're trying to sort of move that not only earlier grade, but earlier in the season as well.
Great. And I just want to do kudos to Rashid and his staff, because all the emails that were coming into my box were getting forwarded. And I can tell you, Rashid was calling directly, making direct contact with them even over the weekend. And I think just about all of them were just so appreciative of getting a direct person here at the agency, talking to them. I think she was probably hiking and making calls on Saturday. But it was important for us to provide that immediate feedback as we were hearing from families as well. So thank you, Rashid. Can you tell us where we are for learning?
I have a question.
So, and I just want to acknowledge also somebody behind the scenes on the webinar, Michelle Rosado, has been working with me and maybe even prior to my involvement in these letters going out to families. So Michelle, I know you're there behind the scenes. Thank you very much for kickstarting this work. We're taking it to a whole other level now, but couldn't have done this without your support. So thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I just want. Just wait a second, please. Thank you. This is Owilda. I want to go back to what Malia indicated. If I read correctly, there was something attached, the most frequent asked questions. You're shaking your head. Remember, as part of the strategy,
Yes, we created an FAQ that we posted online. That is correct.
Exactly right. So if I may suggest, you may want to modify that and ask some of the input that Malia is saying about. I mean, just just a thought there, so it's clear when it comes to the timeline and so forth. I'm just suggesting that, so that way you can avoid getting her mailbox full.
That is precisely what we've done, Dr. Riasco. So that FAQ online actually addresses some of these feedback points, but all feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, learning models. This is the learning model data for last week. We collected right after the week ends. And last week, 79.2% of our school districts were operating in a predominantly fully in-person learning model. Doesn't mean all the kids are in person, but the district was, at least 50% of the grades was offering fully in-person instruction. That is the highest it's ever been, as you can see in the chart below. And that is for the whole year, actually. It starts all the way in September and then goes all the way to April. And you'll notice how after the holidays in December, January, it's been a steady uptick. People across the agency have been doing yeoman's work to make this happen. Last week, only 1%, really 2 districts were fully remote predominantly. And we can now say that 100% of Connecticut districts have offered some in-person instruction to at least some of their students this school year. So we don't have any school districts that have been fully remote from the start and have never opened, which is fantastic. So excellent work.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
I have a question. Are there projections that we think we'll get more districts fully in person this year, or are we approaching some threshold that districts are going to say, you know what, there's only a month left, 6 weeks, we're just going to ride this out how we are?
So, I mean, that's a great question. And, you know, as we're having conversation, I've not heard anybody say that yet. Because believe it or not, I mean, there's still issues where folks are having to quarantine. There's still those kinds of issues that folks are working through. As you know, we're providing guidance about finishing the year strong and everybody working together. So I've not heard that specifically yet. And our meetings, our Tuesday meetings, I think are continuing to provide that support, and we're answering questions as needed. But I've not heard that directly from any of our districts.
I know there's at least one district that's going to be going full in person in May. So.
Okay.
And you know, and I know of at least 2 other districts that are going fully in person, beginning week of the 17th. So you know, and it's only going to be for about 3 weeks, but you're getting them started. So
That's great, because
I don't think we've reached the threshold yet.
20% of students not fully in person, you know, equates to some thousands of kids, right? Yeah. Thank you for the additional feedback.
And you know, I use this opportunity for those watching to say kudos, right, to our district, our family, entire school community. They've worked really hard to get to this point, and I'm constantly thrilled to be in Connecticut, you know, where we do have those levels of partnerships and folks working together on behalf of our students and families. So, and thank you for all your support. Thank you, Ajit, and thank you for having this level of data available. It is nation leading, and so we certainly appreciate being able to have this information available to inform our action. And
there's a big team behind this as well. So.
Thanks, Ajit. Just to give a quick update on the American Rescue Plan and the $1.1 billion that we're now managing, and it's not race to the top, but I feel like we're racing to do all the requirements that we need to get done. Kathy?
Thank you, Commissioner, and good afternoon again. Actually, the scary thing is if we take all of the various federal funding sources, we've hit over $2 billion. The agency's budget on an annual basis, including federal funds, is only about $3 billion. So this is it's a lot of funding available for some very good reasons, and so our task is to make sure that we distribute those funds to the districts in a way that's meaningful for their recovery. So since we talked the last time, we have received some additional guidance and information from the USED around timelines and some of the requirements. On March 24th, USED released 2/3 of the money to us, so for $700 million. We have a 60-day timeline to make those funds available to our LEAs. So we are in the midst of working on the application so that they can begin to avail themselves of the funding. We are working very hard to make sure that the application is not significantly different and continues the work that they just did in the ESSER II application. So that was sort of crazy, the overlap. So the ESSER II applications, we ended up extending the time a little bit for districts. So it was April 26th was when we received the last of the ESSER II applications. So to ask them to now kind of reinvent the wheel for our ESSER seemed not a good exercise or use of their time. So we are working diligently on getting an application available to them. We have also a requirement, well, there's 2 requirements. In addition to the application, the state has to do a plan that has to be accepted by the feds in order for us to access the balance of the funding. So there's a timeline for that plan, which is very accelerated, and it is due to USED on June 7th. I am sure the commissioner will be reaching out to all of you to participate in. We're going to have it requires a significant amount of stakeholder engagement. As a matter of fact, the law actually outlines the groups that have to be, we have to seek input from. So that work is underway. On the LEA side, they are going to have to also do a plan, and part of their plan will be around reopening, which, given the slide that's up in front of us, most of our schools have done that. So they will just be updating some of that and ensuring that they get some additional public input. But they also have to do planning around how they're going to utilize the ARP ESSER funds. There's a specific reservation for the LEAs of 20% for them to use to address learning loss. The requirements for the LEAs actually are kind of similar to what they're seeking in the state plan. And just to give you a little bit of a sense, the things that they're looking for in our plan, are basically what has been our experience, what happened over the last year, what's worked well, where are there promising practices, what are our overall priorities as we move forward. A key component is identifying the needs of our underserved students. And again, they actually specifically outline which students they want to ensure that we address in the plan. And we can share all of that information with the board. They also are seeking for us to provide, which, and thanks to Ajit, we're prepared to do, information about, where our schools are in the process of opening or being open, how they will continue to function that way, remaining safely able to do in-person instruction. So I think that, and they also are interested in us identifying how we're coordinating all the pandemic-related funds, along with the other federal funds that they receive and state and local funds, in order to meet the students' needs. So I actually think that this, while we will hand in a plan on June 7th and the LEAs will be doing a plan, this is going to be an iterative process in the sense of that, I think we can all acknowledge we're not sure what September is going to look like, never mind next December. And the one thing I think we've learned in the last year is that the needs on the ground change frequently and sometimes significantly. And the fact that these funds, between the three funding sources, the funds are available for spending all the way through September 30th of 2024. I think we will be revisiting these plans and doing this work with our stakeholders and stuff on an ongoing basis. So I guess that's to say we have lots of work ahead of us, but we do have a plan. And Commissioner, I don't know if you wanted to add any additional information, or I also see Tanya's also joined us.
So thank you, Kathy. I'm sensitive of the time, but this is just giving the board a quick overview of where we are and certainly more to come. Acknowledging Tanya Butler, who is on, she's a fellow at the Office of the Governor, and I don't know what we would have done so far. She's been really working with us on this plan, working very closely with Kathy and us. We reached out to CERC yesterday because CERC will be supporting us in doing all the stakeholder engagement in very short time frame. As you heard from Kathy, districts will have also a very short time frame to stand up their plans and to get stakeholder input as well. So certainly as much support as we'll be providing them, but we'll also be hearing from you. So stay tuned, because certainly you have a strong voice in the plans and that will be putting together. But Kathy's point is well taken. When you talk about authentic engagement, it's not a one and done. So it's not a come together, tell us what you think, and see you until the feds ask us 5 years from now about another plan. And so our goal is to certainly work with CERC that this stakeholder engagement will certainly continue as we go forward. And so looking forward for your input as well as we do that. So stay tuned. We will certainly be keeping you informed about the plan and where we go from there. Any specific questions on that?
I have a question. This is Woody. Talking about the American Rescue Plan, I was at a meeting yesterday of the NASB Government Affairs Committee, and they said that the plan provides $7.1 billion for internet connectivity for rural areas, $3 billion for internet connectivity for low-income families. And they said that there's a 45-day window for the LEAs to apply for these funds. And they wanted the state boards to remind the LEAs to apply for these funds. So I'm just wondering how this process works. Does the department reach out to the LEAs regarding this? Is this what you were talking about with the engagement and stakeholders?
So that's a different, go ahead, Kathy.
That's okay, Commissioner. I was just going to say, that is a different pool of funding that is not being managed by the department. It's under the broader umbrella of funding that the state of Connecticut itself received. And I can certainly make sure to reach out to my counterparts at OPM to ensure that whatever timelines there are, the districts are being, made aware of them so that they can do that. But that initiative is actually being run by another agency.
Okay. And under the American Rescue Plan, a lot of money is being provided for school buildings, renovations and new buildings. And how is that decided, how that money is allocated?
So thankfully, that actually will be determined by our school construction office, the statewide school construction office, which is under the Department of Administrative Services. So they will be assisting districts with that work. And again, to the extent that they need information or guidance from us, we will be available. But that work will be taking place by DAF.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Kathy. That's very helpful. Everything that was shared was very helpful, and it's important to have that information. Commissioner, anything else?
So just quickly, just the rest of this is a shout out and not new information for some of you, but you know that there was a launch of a Teach Rock, Standards Aligned Curriculum, that was a press event that occurred. It's on the next slide, and you'll see that our colleagues were very much a part of that, with the governor, with up to 10 districts will be selected to participate in the first cohort in moving that forward. So exciting work that's happening. Additionally, on the next slide, the shout out there, the Alliance District convening occurred on April 30th. You see our staff there as well. They engaged with the governor, and so was a part of the work that they did there as well. We still have colleagues on the next slide, another shout out that are being asked to participate in national events. Corey Sullivan presented on attendance and the efforts that are occurring in Connecticut. So we are grateful that the agency's efforts are still being recognized, and we have a few best practices that we continue to share with our colleagues basically across the country. So thanks for that. The next slide, and I just want to get our voice in the room because this is an attainment of a board goal that of reaching our 10% for hires that we're diversifying our educator workforce. That's right. So Dr. Tucker, anything you want to put in the room?
I am here. I just want to thank everyone and just state that this was your plan and your goals that you approved back in 2016 for us to reach the 10% by 2021. We have reached that 10%. We're proud of that. However, we're not resting on our laurels, and we are already into phase 2 of our planning because we know that this 10% number, we need to see it, and we want it to increase to 15 and 20%. So we are already working so that we can remain on an upward trend here and continue to report back to you on our new initiatives and work that we will be doing moving forward to continue diversifying our educator pipeline in Connecticut. So thank you for your continued support.
And Chair, I do have a question. That 10%, when it comes to our African American and Latinos, are they a balance, or are we getting more of one, less, or just curious to know?
I have actual data numbers from the performance office, and the actual African American and Latino percentages and numbers are almost neck and neck. It's 4.1 and 4.3%. So 4.1 African American, 4.3 Latino, and it both equates to almost around 2,200 in each category.
Good job. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yes. So thank you, and to the point that Dr. Tucker just made, we celebrated not because we're done, but we celebrated. One of the things that we learn about making changes that you got to celebrate, even short-term wins. And so this is one of them, and we learn from what got us there so we can accelerate the path forward. So Dr. Tucker, thank you, and thank you to the team, and thank you to this board for setting bold goals that we can.
Yes.
So thank you very much. And my last slide is just going back to where we started before is thank you to our teachers, and thank you all very much. That is it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you so much for that agenda. The agency update, very important, very significant. Very briefly, the committee reports, Eric, academic standards.
Yes, good afternoon, all. And do know that I have eaten lunch, so I am fresh and ready to go another hour. So Standards and Assessments Committee, we met April 13th, where we discussed social emotional learning assessment, DESA, and got a presentation really provocative and thoughtful presentation from Aperture, which is a vendor for SEL, and also a presentation from Naugatuck Public Schools on their SEL model. And again, I always walk away from those Zooms with Ajit and his team and our committee, always learning more than I contribute. And I'm just so thankful for what they lay out for us. It's really incredible. Our next meeting is scheduled for June 8th.
Thank you, Eric. Accountability and support did not meet, and finance and audit and budget did not meet. So the next committee is legislation and policy. Eric.
We also did not meet this morning, but we'll be meeting next month.
Good. And then Bob, Connecticut Technical Education and Career System.
Yeah, so Jeff should magically appear on the screen in a second. It's not. Yeah. We can hear you, Jeff.
Okay, we had a couple of quick updates from last month's board meeting. First, the board undertook one of its biggest lifts every year, which is called our trade reauthorization, where the board, who has the sole authority to decide where to add, remove, or bolster various new trades. So this past month, the board reauthorized the health tech trades across the state in all of the current locations, and they authorized the superintendent to add health in Bristol Tech and Ellis Tech in Emerson. And then also previously, the board decided to reauthorize bioenvironmental technology at Grosso Tech for 2 more years. The board decided not to reauthorize bioenvironmental tech at Prince Tech, relocation for that particular shop. The second piece of information from the technical schools is we are moving towards full in-person learning for our kids as well. We did it earlier from the board meeting, but we are doing it on a site-by-site, region-by-region basis, depending on local health data and metrics. Also, we have very different staffing issues from site to site as well. So that's how we'll be making our decisions. But we are trying to get for this one.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions?
One of the things you said is the bio program at Prince did not get reauthorized for going forward, so we'll take a 3-year phase out for that as well.
Okay. Thank you.
That's the one at Grosso did get reapproved.
Anything else, Bob?
No, I think it was actually a good reauthorization. It was really good discussion, especially around the idea of if you're going to have a program, you want the student to end up with a good living wage when they finish. Right. And we want to make sure that we're not just getting students into a program so they're going to get minimum wage at the end.
Right.
And so that's leading to some really good discussions around, is that something we want to continue to do or not?
Good. Thank you. NASB, Woody?
Yes, also from the NASB Government Affairs Committee meeting, they mentioned that the U.S. Department of Education has a best practices clearinghouse, and they want to hear from us with regard to our successes, particularly with regard to the reopening of the schools and also the summer learning and summer enrichment program. So I'm sure Secretary Cardone would be happy to hear of our successes in these areas. And I guess we have a process to send along our best practices.
Thank you, Udi. And Erin, I know CERC is having its annual conference this Friday. I hope many of you can attend or participate. It's worth it. So Erin, anything else on CERC?
Yeah, thank you, Estella. And I know you, Don, and Woody will be attending with me on Friday, which is as I reported last time, CERC continues with their collaboration with many departments here at the agency, in particular special education. They'll be leading that with their PD next year with the IEP programs and training districts, all districts across our state. They are still accepting many requests for districts for customized PD and contacts, in particular with racial issues is their major one, as I've reported out before. And they're still continuing with their work and lead on the curriculum and design and the professional development to support the Black and Latino curriculum that was recently passed. So that is still, I guess they're still waiting to see funding for PD in that case, but they certainly are well aware of the PD that is necessary for that curriculum to go out to districts. So they've been very, very busy and continue to be great partners with the agency.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Before we adjourn, I just want to say a few words. Let me begin again by thanking the commissioner and the staff for all the work during this very difficult time. I also want to once again apologize for not being there in person. When I began the meeting, all my hair was black. Now you can see that I have a lot of gray hair as a result of the echo, the technology, and other things that happen behind the scene. So thank you for your patience, and thank you for those of you who did make it in person. We're waiting, and the reason that I continue to share these meetings is because we're waiting for the governor's office to appoint a chair to the board. That's a governor's decision. If that doesn't happen for the June meeting, I'll be there in person. I think it's very difficult to do it this way, and again, challenging. Also, my role has always been to push the chair to call for a recess so we can have lunch. So I have that prerogative today, you know, and therefore I'm starving and dying, but that's okay. So I want my role back. And, thank you, everybody. I hope everybody, I love to see Erin laughing, and love to see all of you in person, and thank you again for a very helpful meeting. And stay healthy, okay? Goodbye.
Thank you, Estella. Thank you. Bye, everyone. And everybody from this side.